I'd like to call to order the Public Improvement Commission hearings of April 15, 2021. Mr. Liming, if you could be ever so kind and do a roll call.
Public Works Department. Public Works Department. Public
That's you,
Works-
Paul.
Yep. Public Works, please indicate that you are present by stating your name. Para.
Para Jaisinghe, present.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Department.
Amy Gordon.
Property Management Department.
Joseph Callahan.
Water and Sewer Commission.
Denise Devlin.
Inspectional Services Department.
Brian Ronan.
And Disabilities Commission.
Sarah Leon.
Thank you. All present.
Thank you. First order of business, hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of minutes of the PIC hearings held on March 25th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of March 25th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. First item on our public hearings continued section. Item number 1, on a petition by Madison Park Development Corp. Doing business as 75 Dudley LLC for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to the following public ways in Roxbury: Dudley Street on its southerly side at street number 75 to 81 between Guild Row and Kenilworth Street. Guild Row on its westerly side south of Dudley Street. This was brought under new business on January 14, 21. First public hearing was on January 28th of this year. Public hearing continued on March 11, 2021. As shown on the plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Pedestrian Easement Plan 75 through 81 Dudley Street, Roxbury, Boston. One sheet dated March 8, 2021.
Hi, Meg Regan from Madison Park is here. I'm the project manager. I'm here to ask for another continuance until August 5th to allow some time for us to go through the BPDA review process due to the redesign of the building to preserve the street trees.
I'm sorry, Megan, we can just hear your voice. We can't see your video. And I'm not sure whether you identified yourself correctly in terms of your position since you are asking for a continuance.
Yes, I'm the project manager for 7581 Dudley Street. Sorry, I don't have a camera on my laptop.
And you want a continuance through?
Yes, we would like a continuance through August 5th, which would give us time to go through the BPDA review process again. We're redesigning the project to preserve the 5 silver linden street trees on Guild Row and Dudley Street.
Megan, that's a very lengthy time extension. Can you fill us a little bit more details as to what work is to be done? And because this came under new business on January 14th, and how you would ensure that the plans that has been submitted for the Public Improvement Commission will be still valid come August or whenever you want this thing to be continued.
Well, we've been working with Todd Liming and Megan Richard and Jill Zach and other people with the city agencies. My understanding is that even though we're redesigning the building and the building footprint has been reduced and we're reducing the unit count, the public improvements that we have proposed will not change. But because we are reducing the building footprint and reducing the unit count, we have to go through the BPDA's review process again. So that includes a community process and a community public community commenting period. So I'm asking for continuance until August 5th, just to ensure that basically we are giving ourselves enough time so that when we do come back in August, we're not asking for another continuance.
Mr. Lighting, could you add further guidance to Megan as to what she needs to do to ensure that the commission can entertain this motion in its current format through August?
Certainly. I will work with the project team to ensure that their plans in August reflect the current conditions of the roadway and accurately reflect what their proposed design of the streetscape will be. We will update the plans between now and then. We'll redate them and to ensure that everything is up to PIC standards.
That being said, are there any concerns or comments by fellow commission members about the request to continue this hearing through August? Hearing none. Megan, hopefully when you come to the public hearing, you will overcome your hardware challenges about the camera feed, and your team will be in a position to entertain the commission as it needs to be. So that being said, I'd like to hear a motion to continue this thing through August 5th. Is that correct, Mr. Liming?
Yes, August 5th.
Like to
I'll
hear
make
a
a
motion.
motion to continue public hearing continued. Item number 1 is read into the record by the chair until August
Like
5th.
talking.
Second.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstained? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, public hearing continued. Item number 2, on a petition by Madison Park Development Corp. Doing business as 75 Dudley Limited Liability Company for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Roxbury, consisting of curb realignment as well as sidewalks and pedestrian ramp reconstruction. Dudley Street on its southerly side at address number 75 through 81 between Gilgrove and Kenilworth Street. Gilgrove on its westerly side south of Dudley Street. This was brought under new business on January 14th of this year, public hearing on January 28th. Public hearing continued on March 11th of this year, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repair and License Plan 75 through 81 Dudley Street, Gilgrove and Dudley Street, Roxbury, 2 sheets dated January 5th, 2021. Petitioner.
Hi, we would like to ask for a continuance for this item as well until August 5th, for the reasons that I laid out for the previous pedestrian easement.
Megan, since we can't see you and we just have your voice, you need to still again identify yourself in person.
Sorry, I am the project manager for 7581 Dudley Street at Madison Park.
And your name for the record.
Megan Regan?
Mr. Liming.
Same deal. We will work with the project team to make sure that their plans are up to date and reflect the current conditions and the appropriate design.
Concerns, questions by commission members? Hearing none, I'd like to hear a motion to continue this public hearing through August 5th.
I make a motion to continue the petition by Madison Park Development Corp. For specific repairs at Dudley Street and Guild Row, as read into the record by the chair until August 5th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. That concludes our public hearings continued section. Now we will move to the public hearings portion of our agenda. First item, public hearing number 1, on a joint petition by 9 Glover Court LLC and 35 Woodward Street Condominium Trust for the widening and relocation of the existing right-of-way lines of Glover Court. It's a public way, South Boston, located on its southeasterly side at Woodward Street. This was brought under new business on March 11, 2021, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Widening and Relocation Plan, Woodward Street and Glover Court, South Boston, one sheet dated March 3, 2021.
Yes, hello, my name is Brian Kaplan. I'm one of the proponents for this. With me here is Robert Messenger, who has shared his screen, and Michael Littman from Howard, Stein, and Hudson. As you mentioned, we have a widening and relocation petition and a specific repairs petition. So this is related to a site near Andrews Square in South Boston. Woodward Street, as you can see here, runs from Dorchester Street to Dorchester Ave, and Glover Court is off of Woodward Street, and it's that intersection of Woodward and Glover that this is focused on. The site in red outline is 9 Glover Court, also known as 534 Dorchester Ave rear, which is the site that we have approved plans to redevelop, and is how we are here today. I will let Robert go through the specifics of the detail, but I will add that we had a community meeting the other night on this, and previously had talked with Andrew Square and some abutters directly. Everybody was okay with the plan and in support of it. We had no objection. We've got a handful of letters of support, and Linda from the Andrew Square Civic Association who was at the abutters meeting, was also in support of it.
Thank you, Brian.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Bob Messenger from Howard Stein Hudson. I'd just like to note that specific repairs we're proposing are in 2 locations. We have a driveway curb cut at the frontage of the building in Glover Court, and also the intersections improvements, as Brian alluded to. Move to the specific repair illustrative here. We're looking at Glover Court. The proposed building is here, and we're proposing a 10-foot wide driveway curb cut here, standard for, yes?
Bob, right on the item that has been open for conversations is the widening and relocation. So if you can limit your comments to that item, and then you can follow up the rest of the items when they have been open. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good. So if you could speak to that, please.
So moving to the intersection at Glover Court and Woodward Streets, we're proposing an easement at the corner here. It's a 12 square foot easement along Glover Court and Woodward Street. And it's impacting the 35 Woodward Street Condominium Trust, and they have reviewed and approved in their co-petitioners to this widening and relocation plan.
Comments by commission members? Hearing none. Comments by PIC staff?
We're all set with this one. We'll just await the submission of the highway easement document from the proponent after approval.
Todd, are there any comments by audience?
I see none.
At this point, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing item number 1.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by 9 Glover Court LLC and 35 Woodward Street Condominium Trust for the widening and relocation in Glover Court, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, public hearing number 2. On a joint petition by 9 Glover Court LLC and 35 Woodward Street Condominium Trust for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in South Boston, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalk, and pedestrian ramp reconstruction, as well as new flush crosswalks. Glover Court, generally between address number 9 and Woodward Street, generally at Glover Court. This was brought under new business on March 11th of this year, 2021, as shown on the plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, Woodward Street, Glover Court, 534R, Rochester Ave, South Boston, one sheet dated February 10, 2021.
Thank you. And back to the specific repair illustrative here. The building has frontage along Glover Court, and there is a outdoor parking space that requires a driveway curb cut. So we're proposing a 10-foot wide curb cut to access this space, and it's standard city detail for sidewalks less than 7 feet. Additionally, the specific repairs we're petitioning were intersection improvements at Woodward Street and Glover Court. And we coordinated with the city agencies after the public hearing. We got feedback from them, and which landed on a regrading approach. And this would provide better access to Glover Court as well as improve the pedestrian access at the intersection. We're adjusting some of the curbs here. We'll have a flush condition for the pedestrian crossing, which will also improve vehicular access to Glover Court. We'll provide new detectable warning panels, and we'll repave the area with some adjustments in grades to accommodate the slush crossing here. And of course, new crosswalk paints.
Thank you, Bob. So I'm going to assume you have had conversations with the public works staff, because under new business, I believe you were showing either a raised tabletop or a speed hump or something like that, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, that's correct. We met with BTD, Todd from PSC Disabilities, and
Zach
we
was there.
discussed.
Par.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, we landed on this approach and got rid of that previous
Thank you,
design.
Bob. Thank you. Appreciate you doing that follow through. Any questions or comments by commission members? Hearing none. Mr. Lining, any comments by PIC staff and or the audience for today?
No, all set on both counts.
Then like to hear a motion regarding hearing number 2.
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by 9 Glover Court LLC and 35 Woodward Street Condominium Trust for the making of specific repairs in Glover Court and Woodward Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Public hearing number 3 on a joint petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, the City of Boston Transportation Department, and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in West Roxbury, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalks, and roadway reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavement, street lights, street trees, street furniture, bike racks, transit information kiosks, and a raised crosswalk. Cornet Street, southeast of Cohasset Street, Cohasset Street at Cornet Street, Poplar Street, south of South Street, South Street at Poplar Street, and Taft Hill Terrace. This was brought under new business on March 25th, 2021, as shown on the set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, Cornet Street at Poplar Street, Roslindale, 13 sheets dated April 15th, 2021.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Matt Moran. I work for the Boston Transportation Department. And within BTD, I lead a team called the Transit Team. So the goal of the Transit Team is to coordinate with the MBTA to make improvements to city streets, to make the sort of rider experience, accessibility, and reliability better for our residents. So I'm joined here with Connor Murphy from McMahon & Associates, who will be discussing sort of the more technical details. I'm going to provide a brief introduction. I'm also joined by Natasha Vance from the MBTA, who can provide any agency-related questions or answer any agency-related questions. Quick introduction. So what we're looking at are, as you noted, Mr. Chair, 2 locations where we're going to be creating wider sidewalks that will allow for fully accessible ADA-compliant bus stops. These wider sidewalks also provide the opportunity to add in bus stop amenities, such as shelters, which will be standard city JCDecaux shelters, MBTA real-time arrival countdown clocks, and then working with the Rosendale Village Main Streets, we'll be working on some public art and street furniture along these corridors as well. The MBTA will be doing, through one of their contractors, the actual construction, and this has been sort of designed and will be in close coordination with the Public Works Department, Disabilities Commission, and of course, BTD. We've also been working closely with other city agencies as necessary as well. We are doing these 2 bus stop bump outs through a grant that was awarded by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation through their Shared Winter Streets program. There's a little bit of urgency to this grant, which is we need to have the construction substantially completed by the end of May. So we're hoping for approval today with this group's recognition, and hoping to start construction in the next few weeks for this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Connor, who can talk about some of the technical details.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt, as well. So to follow up with what Matt was saying, I will more or less dive into the design piece of this. So we have in Rosendale Square, again, Corinth Street and Poplar Street. So I will start with Corinth, with what we're looking at here. It's about a 150-foot proposed curb extension that we're looking to put in on Corinth Street on the far side of Cohasset Street. It's a 6-foot wide curb extension. As I said, about 150 feet down. There's going to be 2 bus berths that we will be able to fit on this curb extension, and that is shown on the plans here. There'll be some street lighting changes to push a few of the street lights against the new proposed curb based on comments from Public Works Street Lighting Division, and we are also shifting a street light at the ramp crossing Corinth Street outside of kind of the ramp berth, so that's improving the ramp in that case as well. We are also proposing a bus shelter in the middle of the bus stop, but placed so that it will not block the Bank of America entrance that is shown right here, and to avoid existing tree pits and other street furniture that exist along Corinth Street. And Parks Department has agreed to close the empty tree pit that this is being shown on for placement at that location. So we've done the coordination there. We are also proposing a raised crossing to go across Cohasset Street. This is based on coordination with Public Works Department, BTD, and Disabilities to address various design issues over here, including the alignments of the 2 ramps going across Cohasset Street, and the path of travel, existing grading along Cohasset and Corinth Street as it currently is, and then the building entrances at both the Bank of America and the Fornax entrances on both sides of the crossing. So Cohasset Street is one way going from Corinth outbound, and then the angled approach that's being shown here was requested by Public Works Department and accommodated within our plans. And then grading and pavement reconstruction has been proposed so that the gutter line along the Corinth side of the crossing will allow for to basically promote drainage going from the near side to far side of Cohasset Street. So that's all been incorporated into the plans. And then the ramp across the street on Corinth Street has been proposed to be reconstructed, and the specific design has been coordinated with Public Works Department and other agencies. So that design specifically is set to meet needs that have been identified in the coordination process. Since the new business, nothing has really substantially changed at this stop. So that's pretty much what I have here. Are there any questions related to Corinth Street?
Good morning, Connor, Matt. I have a quick question. Actually, something we had sent a comment in about a couple weeks ago. So we actually have a hydrant there right near Taft Court at that
Yes.
that handicap ramp. So we just want to we prefer to keep the hydrant where it is. So we just want to make sure that it's not in the ramping.
No, this was coordinated with Zach and based on that continuity. So there's a curb that will be going into frame that hydrant, so that way it's not going to be in the flare itself. So the ramp that was where we were constructed there. So and then a detail has been added to the plan set, which I can pull up. Oh, there it is. And then we did add a detail specifically for that ramp to be included in the grading, reflects that as well.
Oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, and when you get a chance, if you don't mind, just sending that to us.
Yep, absolutely. I can forward it to you.
Profiles, that's no problem.
Yep, I'll send it over to you as soon as I'm done talking.
Oh, yeah, after the meeting, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Connor, appreciate it.
No worries. Anything else?
Any other comments by fellow commission members?
On Corinth? Sounds like no. All right.
So on a slow down.
Then I will move on to Poplar real quick. So similarly, Poplar Street curb extension, we're looking at from South Street going about 200 feet down or so based on the existing curb extension that is at the corner here to fit in 2 bus berths at the kind of far end of the extension. And the layout is put in there to help with the length of it, excuse me, is there to allow for the MBTA vehicles to really make that left turn and still have enough room for the 2 bus berths. The street lighting along the curb extension has been proposed to be changed to going curbside. This is based on coordination with street lighting. And then there's also a new street light proposed at the corner of South Street and Poplar Street, again, in coordination with street lighting. The design has been proposed as shown to improve accessibility along Poplar Street by removing stepped entrances at the back of sidewalk where possible, based on the existing grading and whatnot. And then there was also support from Public Works to retain the aesthetics of existing brick and tree zones. So pedestrian desire lines are basically predetermined based on some of the coordination and what we were looking to do with the existing brick and paths of travel. So we have raised brick areas here and here, which are shown on the plans. And the existing path of travel will be in front and behind those based on the existing grading challenges in coordination with Public Works, disabilities, and then the MBTA as well. Curb ramps 3, 4, 5, and 6 have been proposed for reconstruction to realign them based on coordination. Any ramp not shown to be redone here has been checked for ADA compliance and they do pass. And then the brick areas adjacent to the layout of benches over here were requested by the BTD transit team in that. So, and those are flush with the sidewalk. They are not raised. And then we did make a couple slight changes of just the amount of curb that was shown behind the shelter over here and the layout of a couple of bike racks and whatnot based on just some further coordination with Public Works over the last 3 weeks. So that's really the only change since new business, and it was agreed upon with Public Works. So there's should be no coordination issues with that. It was just us addressing a couple concerns. Any further issues with Poplar or any questions?
Continue.
That's it. That's all I have. That's
Wonderful comment. Are there any additional comments or concerns by fellow commission members? Hearing none. Todd, any comments, concerns by PFD staff or the audience of today?
No issues.
Matt, wonderful work as always. Just remind me again, the instrument through which this construction work is going to be done is it the MBTA or is it us?
It's the MBTA. They're using SBS Construction.
Okay. And I'm going to assume that there's a point of coordination where when the work is done, there will be someone from Public Works and the city who will help them to certify that the work was done to the satisfaction of these plans.
Yeah, I'll coordinate with John Vizella and Dan Lester.
Awesome. As always, you're ahead of the game. At this point, I'd like to entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority and the City of Boston Transportation Department and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the making of specific repairs in Corner Street, Cohasset Street, Poplar Street, and South Street, as read in the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 4 on a petition by Shipway Development LLC for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to the following public ways in Dorchester. Dorchester Ave on its easterly side at address number 1700 and 1710, both north and south of King Street. King Street on both sides east of Dorchester Ave. This was brought under new business on March 25th of this year, 2021, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division Pedestrian Easement Plan 1700 Dorchester Ave, 1710 Dorchester Ave, Dorchester, 2 sheets dated March 15, 2021.
Good morning. My name is James Downing from Howard St. Hudson, joined this morning by Maddie Blanchard, also from Howard St. Hudson. We're the project engineers. Joined as well on the call today by Patrick Mahoney from Shipway Development, who's the petitioner. We are here to present the pedestrian easement for 1700 and 1710 Dorchester Avenue. The project consists of the construction of 2 4-story buildings with 36 residential units and approximately 20 off-street parking spaces, with approximately 1,500 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. Next slide, please, Maddie. As a result of improvements within the right-of-way along Dorchester Avenue, the proponent is granting the City of Boston a pedestrian easement along the entire frontage of 1700 Dorchester Avenue, approximately 148 feet by 1.5 feet. Totaling 342 square feet. This will allow for a clear path of travel of 6 feet, minimum 6 feet along Dorchester Avenue at this location. Next slide. At 1710 Dorchester Avenue, you don't want to zoom in there, Maddie, but the petitioner is granting the City of Boston a small pedestrian easement. This is a result of the reconstruction of a new pedestrian ramp. The back of the landing will basically meet the existing property line, therefore granting a small pedestrian easement of approximately 31 square feet. It's approximately 14 feet long by 2 feet wide. Be happy to answer any questions Commission members might have.
Thank you, James. Comments by Commission members? Hearing none. Are there any comments by PIC staff and or the audience of today?
No, none.
That being said, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 4.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Shipway Development LLC for the acceptance of pedestrian easements at Dorchester Avenue and King Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 5, on a petition by Shipway Development LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Dorchester, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavement, street lights, bike racks, and driveway curb cuts. Dorchester Ave on its easterly side at address number 1700 and 1710, both north and south of King Street on both sides east of Dorchester Ave. This was brought under new business on March 25th of this year, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plans, Dorchester Ave and King Street, 1700 and 1710, Dorchester Ave, Dorchester, 2 sheets dated February 26, 2021. James.
Good morning. James Downing, Howard St. Hudson, by Maddie Blanchard, also from Howard St. Hudson, and Pat Shipway Development, who's the petitioner. We're here to present the specific repairs for developments at 1700 and Dorchester Avenue. The project consists of the construction of 2 separate buildings either side of King Street. Right now, we're looking at the location of 1700 Dorchester Avenue, which basically is the consists of a 4-story building with the combined unit count of 36 units with 20 parking spaces. Improvements within the public way along Dorchester Avenue include new sidewalk reconstruction, installation of Pring Road pavers. On the corner of King Street also includes new bike racks and also the construction of a pedestrian ramp. This will allow for a clear path of travel of 6 feet along Dorchester Avenue. Next slide, please, Maddie. This slide shows the improvements out front of 1700 Dorchester Avenue and also along King Street. Improvements up Dorchester Avenue in front of 1710 Dot Ave include a new blue bike station, curb realignment, a new pedestrian ramp reconstruction, and also sidewalk reconstruction and bike racks on King Street. We'd be happy to answer any questions that commission members may have.
Comments by fellow commission members?
Station? Did he mention the blue bike station?
James, what's the status of the maintenance agreement for this project?
The LMI agreements were submitted to both City Council and to Todd, I believe. Of their actual status, whether they've been executed, I don't. I know Todd or I know Pat Mahoney's on the call as well. I don't know if they've been actually executed yet.
Yeah, the LMI is under review by our law department, and permits will not be issued until those have been executed and submitted.
Thank you. Todd, any comments by PIC staff and or this audience?
No.
That's the case. I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 5.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Shipway Development LLC for specific repairs in the area of Dorchester Avenue and King Street as further read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, James. Wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 6 on a petition by WBA Townhomes LLC for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to Gardner Street, Public Way, West Roxbury, located on its southwesterly side at address number 178, generally northwest of VFW Parkway. This was brought under new business on March 25th, 2021, and shown on the plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division Pedestrian Easement Plan, 178 Gardner Street, West Roxbury, 1 peak dated December 21, 2020.
Good morning, James Kennedy again. I'm joined this morning by Matty Blanchard from Harvard Stein Hudson. Also on the call today is Peter Davos, principal from Townhomes. We're here to present the pedestrian easement associated with development at 178 Gardner Street. The project consists of the construction of 2 3-story buildings, which would include 18 townhomes and 36 off-street parking spaces. Next slide, please, Matty. As a result of improvements within the right-of-way along Gardner Street, here is granting the City of Boston a pedestrian easement along the entire frontage of the property along Gardner Street, which is approximately 186 feet long and 1 foot wide. This would allow for a minimum clear path of travel of 5 feet along Gardner Street. I'm happy to answer any questions commission members may have.
Questions, comments by commission members? Hearing none, comments by PIC staff or the audience?
None.
That being the case, I'd like to make a motion regarding public hearing number 6.
I make a motion to approve a petition by WBA Townhomes LLC for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement on Gardner Street in West Roxbury as further read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, public hearing number 7 on a petition by WBA Townhomes LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in West Roxbury, consist of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, street lights, street trees, landscaping, and driveway curb cuts. Gardner Street on its southwesterly side at address number 178, generally northwest of VFW Parkway, Charles Park Road, and northeasterly side, generally northwest of VFW Parkway. This was shown under new business on March 25, 2021, and shown in the plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, Gardner Street, Charles Park Road, 178 Gardner Street, West Roxbury, 2 sheets dated March 16, 2021.
Good morning, James Dowling, Hauerstein Hudson, joined by Maddie Blanchard, also from Hauerstein Hudson, on the call, as well as Peter Davos, principal from WBA Townhomes. We're here to present the specific repair plans for 178 Gardner Street. The project is located in West Roxbury neighborhood. The site is bounded by Gardner Street to the north and Charles Park Road to the south. Right now, we're looking at the improvements within the right-of-way along Charles Park Road, which include the extension of approximately 30 feet of new sidewalk, a widening of the sidewalk to 1.5 feet along the entire frontage. Also includes the planting of 11 new street trees and also the relocation of an existing crosswalk with 2 pedestrian ramps and a proposed new driveway access as well. Next slide, please, Mary. Improvements along Gardner Street include a hydrant relocation and the closing of 2 existing curb cuts, also widening the sidewalk to have a minimum clear path of travel of 5 feet along Gardner Street. We're happy to answer any questions that the commission members may have.
Thank you, James. Comments, concerns by commission members? Hearing none, any comments by PIC staff or today's audience?
Just to clarify, the situation on Charles Park Road is a little atypical. Where you see that green landscaping and those proposed trees, that's actually part of the right-of-way, even though it looks like the front yard of these buildings. But those trees and that landscaping will be covered under an LMI and be maintained by the project.
That's correct.
For that point of clarification. Any further comments?
None.
Hearing none, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 7.
Make a motion to approve a petition by WBA Townhomes LLC for the making of specific repairs in Gardner Street and Charles Park Road is read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, James. Thank you, Peter. It's a wonderful project.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Next item, public hearing number 8 on a petition by NFL SRE 1 Winthrop Square LLC for the making of specific repairs within Winthrop Square Public Way, Boston proper, located at address number 1, generally south of Winthrop Lane, and consisting of new groundwater recharge infrastructure. This was shown under new business March 26th of this year as shown in the plan entitled City of Boston Public Department Engineering Division specific repairs 1 Winthrop Square, Boston proper 1 feet in March 28th. I am getting feedback. Todd?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting feedback on this. He's probably on the line.
Yep, Chris, I actually think that may be you. If you can just mute yourself until Para is all done, and then you unmute yourself to present. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. Petition, if you could take it from here.
All right, so this is, excuse me, Chris Hyder with Edge Engineering. I'm assuming you can see the plan on my screen right now. And I'm here with Paul Asmar from Van Fung. Paul, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm just trying to keep my microphone off and listening to you.
I'll mute while you're talking.
Okay, I am here. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, Paul. You're good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so the specific repair plan that we have is for 1 Winthrop Square. So just as I stated last time, this is not the currently underway project for the Winthrop Center Tower or the work being undertaken in the park. It's for the 1 Winthrop Square site here. The building itself is having some interior renovations done, which tripped the Boston Water and Sewer recharge requirement. The building itself has 2 levels of basement underneath, including a basement that extends out to the sidewalk and into Winthrop Square Park around the edge, as is typical in this part of the city. So to accomplish the recharge, we have to do it outside the building. So stormwater will flow to a tank inside the building and then 3 recharge wells within the park, which will then overflow into the storm drain or the combined sewer in Otis Street. These plans were approved by Boston Water and Sewer at the end of February. So I'll open it up to any questions or comments.
Sorry, thank you, Chris. Comments by fellow commission members? Hearing none, any comments by PIC staff or today's audience? At this point, I'd like to get a motion regarding public hearing number 8.
I make a motion to approve a petition by NFL SRE 1 Winthrop Square LLC for the making of specific repairs within the Winthrop Square area as further read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all very much. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 9 on a petition of Albright Realty LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Brighton, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalks, and roadway reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian bands, specialty pavement, street lights, street trees, planters, landscaping, irrigation structures, stormwater drainage infrastructure, bike racks, driveway curb cuts, and the removal of an existing median island. Lincoln Street at address number 525, generally between Cambridge Street and Royal Street. Cambridge Street on its northwesterly side, southwest of Lincoln Street. This was shown under new business March 25th, 2021, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repair Plans 525 Lincoln Street, Cambridge Street, Alston, 3 sheets dated March 24th, 2021.
Great, good morning. Steve Maduron with Bowler here to introduce the project. With me on the call is Daniel Mole, who's with Albright Realty LLC, the owner and applicant for the project. And we also have Paul Rufo, project counsel from Smith, Duggan, Buell, and Rufo. So, good morning. Good morning. Thank you again for having us. I have generally the same presentation that was introduced during the new business hearing, but I'll run through the slides quickly to get folks reacquainted with the project, and we'll go through the specifics. So bear with me. I'll share my screen if I can. A window. Sorry about that. Here we go. All right. Once that popped up on the screen, that's just an image of the project itself. The project is a 6-story residential project, 80 units, 30 garage parking spaces, a very bike-centric project, so 278 bicycle parking spaces associated with the project, and there's a new blue bike station proposed, a 19-stall station that we'll see in a second. Clicking through the project just to get people acquainted, this is Cambridge Street. At the bottom, you can see I-90, that there's a overpass of Cambridge Street over I-90 here. And then Lincoln Street wraps around the project site. You can see the sidewalks today they're there, but they're pretty bare, somewhere in the 4 to 7 foot range of what's out there today. Just a quick graphical image so you can see the scope of improvements. The project limits are here opposite Royal Street, and then we're showing there's some DOT and parkland just off to the side here. But no, sorry, not DOT, it's city owned. And then the project is here, and we're improving the entire frontage, incorporating the complete streets and street trees, and several other improvements I'll run through quickly. I won't spend a lot of time on these slides, but these are just some existing and then proposed to give you a feel for the goals of the project. Again, this is Cambridge Street along that frontage of the project. A lot of time with the BCDC talking about what the private side of the frontage is that abuts the public sidewalk. So we have a lot of grade change on Cambridge Street. So a lot of these tiered plazas that we've incorporated to break the grade up and give that urban feel and a much nicer pedestrian experience than the current sidewalk condition. This is on the opposite side of the building. This is the Lincoln Street side. Again, more neighborhood oriented, so a little more, neighborhood feel here with the park-like setting with some benches. And again, this is all publicly accessible, but on the private property. And then we do that complete streets treatment along the sidewalk with new street trees, pervious pavers, and a minimum 5-foot clear concrete sidewalk. So to get to the technical drawing, which I thought the graphics are helpful because there's a lot on the drawing. And again, the petition is for specific repairs on those two streets, Cambridge and Lincoln Street. So I'll zoom in. I trust everybody can see, but let me know if not. This is Cambridge Street starting closer to the bridge and then working down the hill. So we have where we're getting back to matching the existing sidewalk width. We have a 5.3 foot sidewalk with the 3 foot deep, 8 foot wide tree pits. Very standard spacing, 30-foot spacing. We introduce sorry, I'm looking at my notes. We introduced 24 new street trees that don't exist today, and 12 new decorative light poles. So you can see this here is one of the light poles, and those, so you can see this sort of wrapping all the way around the perimeter, with the street trees, decorative light poles at approximately 90-foot spacing all along the frontage, Cambridge Street and Lincoln. We have a little bit of a road change. So that treatment comes all the way down here. We do restripe this sidewalk. There have been some signal improvements recently by the city at this area, so we think it's in good shape. We did hear a concern with the loops. It might not be working appropriately. The conversation with BTD, we believe they may be recently upgraded, but we did add into the scope to put new loop detectors in when we do our paving, which makes a lot of sense because we are milling and overlaying this section. So we will put in new when we do those paving operations. New accessible ramps at the intersection here. We did confirm the ramp, the corresponding ramp is compliant. It did not have the correct color panel, not city standard. So we will be, with our work, we'll be replacing that panel to bring that up to city standard. As you move down into Lincoln Street here, again, we have 8-foot sidewalks along this stretch, and then adjacent public plazas or adjacent plazas on the private land that tie into the sidewalk. So it'll have an even wider, more generous feel along that stretch. We do have a little bit of an island extension here and some roadway modifications at this intersection. Right now, it's a very large sweeping turn. You can see the curb line in the background here is way back here. This allows free flow movements. There's been a lot of focus on this intersection and really Alston Brighton in general with the Alston Brighton mobility study. One of the key points was Lincoln Street and how do we calm traffic, slow things down. We heard that in the Alston Brighton mobility study, as well as through our community process, through our BPDA community process. The neighborhood and city alike were asking for some mitigation or traffic calming measures. So we're pulling this curb line way out to shrink this to a more reasonable width and a more reasonable radius at this intersection. So it goes down to a 24-foot width here, and that's where we pull that curb line out and we get rid of this. There is an island in the middle today that goes away, and this becomes a more traditional intersection. Still very generous for truck movements and things like that that may need to occur here, but much tighter and better controlled, and this island is part of it. But really, the curb line's the bigger move, and one of the benefits is it allows us to introduce this crossing now at a much more pedestrian scale crossing instead of they would have been crossing approximately 50 to 60 feet, and now we've shortened that to a 24-foot crossing. So much needed improvement there for the pedestrian access, and we introduce a corresponding ramp on the other side. On the Boston Lighting side, this was very important to Boston Lighting, is the lighting system is very stressed in this area, a lot of development and a lot of improvements, introducing the decorative lighting, sometimes to supplement or to replace the old high pole lighting. So to do that, they didn't have sufficient power to add all the decorative lightings we're proposing, and frankly they didn't have enough to do what they wanted to do elsewhere in the system. So we're pulling new power out of this manhole to a new control box for Boston Lighting, introducing another light over here as a control light for them, and then feeding back across to our side to feed the lights on our project, and then continuing that with some measures for them to continue increasing their lighting along Cambridge Street. And then this box and this control light are meant to continue servicing whether it goes up Empire Street or on the opposite side of Lincoln Street. So very, very important to Boston Lighting to get some of those improvements incorporated as part of the project. Also at this intersection, we're taking advantage of the space here to put the 19 station blue bike in a very visible spot. We think it's a nice way to do this particular station because we've really put the walkway on the outside. So this is more the heavy traffic flow. If you have a lot of pedestrian activity at the same time, you have a lot of blue bike activity. The blue bikes have sort of their own zone separate from the main walking path. So really, really good use of this space, and we've introduced a raised planter in the middle to really break that up and break down the scale of the sidewalk width there. So we think that's very effective. And then back to a more traditional treatment of street trees, impervious pavers with generally a 6.5 to 7 foot sidewalk width along the remainder of Lincoln Street. So, and then we taper back down to meet the 7 foot concrete sidewalk at the property line. So that's a lot. There's a lot of frontage here, but that's hopefully a good overview of what we're trying to accomplish and how we've done that. I think that's it. We do have stormwater systems on site on the private property, the 1.25 inch Boston Water and Sewer infiltration system. So that works well. We have the shadow fiber conduits following those, the lighting conduits. So those are incorporated in the plans. The limits of mill and overlay along Lincoln Street, full curb to curb mill and overlay. Those limits are on the plans. I mentioned the new loop detectors as well. And with that, I'll open it up. If there's any questions for me or ownership or legal counsel, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that very thorough presentation. Steve, I have a small point, and I'm a bit embarrassed that I didn't catch it the last time. Could you move your screen so it is at the intersection of Lincoln? Yeah, right there. Perfect. Don't go too much. Actually, if you could zoom back a little bit. So my point, and I need Amy's guidance on this. There's a median currently along Lincoln Street as it comes towards Cambridge Street, correct? There's a median?
Correct.
Right. And at the top end of your screen, the blue color markings where you are adjusting right there. Okay. So that median, the limits of that median may have made sense when we had that wide intersection. But now the fact that you have tightened the intersection, do you see any value extending the limits of that median a little bit to the northern part, to the top of your screen? So that way, traffic that is coming off Cambridge from Lincoln to the Empire intersection, so it is more of a defined area rather than the free-for-all. Amy,
That's-
did I miss anything?
That's the blue line. So the median island's going out with the curb line. They're
Yeah,
coming
but
up.
can it be extended even further up to align with the straight line of Empire Street when you think about the sidewalks? Like, I think it can go up a little bit. I hate to do this now because this is,
Not sticking over the crosswalk.
You're talking, bring it up.
yeah, you got
It's
it.
really, really crude drawing, but
No, that's, thank you, Steve. You captured what I'm trying to mumble here. So,
we don't have an issue with that, if that's the preference of the city.
so if you could talk to your key members and adjust the plans, if that is not much of an issue, that way you are controlling the Lincoln and Empire Street alignment in a little bit more defined.
It's more about the left's in, right? So like the further out this comes, the more perpendicular those lefts become, the slower they become, and the more ped friendly they become.
So I'll leave it up to you folks to do what needs to be done and adjust the plans as it needs to be. In doing this 11th hour,
Yeah, I'm happy to make the modification of the drawing and share with Ms. Cording if that, make sure we get that in the right spot, and then we'll finalize the drawing.
Steve, I appreciate that consideration of the part.
Sure.
Any other comments by fellow commission members?
Oh, good morning. I just had a quick comment. So at Lincoln at Cambridge Street, you have a note for existing catch basin to be converted to drain manhole with new frame and cover. I just want to check, were you trying to install a drop inlet?
We are.
Okay.
It's a really shallow one, so we're putting a drop inlet here, and then that's where the current catch basin is.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
if you could, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just with this curb line moving out, there were some shallow conditions there, and thought that this would be the best situation. So that's the intent there.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, if you could just put that, that note on the drawing, that would be great.
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you. And then just, a small minor thing, I know you brought it up the last time, I knew you're continuing to work with our department on the site plan, review, through the site plan review process.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, we are.
Thank
And
you.
we'll make sure that gets into the Boston Water Sewer drawings as well.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Steve. Any other comments by fellow commission members? Hearing none, before I ask Mr. Liming, the status of your maintenance agreement, truly appreciative of all the improvements you are doing. I'm going to assume that there's a very solid maintenance agreement that has been forged and about to be signed or has been signed, or we are very close to be signing. Would that be the case, Mr. Liming?
Yes, we're working on a maintenance agreement with them, and I will mention that this maintenance agreement will speak to the snow removal from all of the sidewalks, especially at the corner of Lincoln Street and Empire Street, where you have kind of an inside and outside sidewalk situation with an island in the middle.
Of course.
Thank you, Paul. Any further comments by PIC staff and or today's audience?
No, none.
That being the state, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 9.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Albright Realty LLC for specific repairs in the area of Lincoln Street and Cambridge Street, as further read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
much. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 10 on a petition by Bartlett Place Land, Inc. for the widening and relocation of the existing right-of-way lines of Lambert Avenue, a public way in Roxbury, located on its southeasterly side between Bartlett Street and Gill Street. This was brought under new business on March 25th of this year. As shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Widening and Relocation, Lambert Ave, Public Way, Roxbury, one sheet dated March 10th, 2021. Good morning. If you are the petitioner, you may want to unmute yourself.
Good morning. We have Imad Zareen with us, shortly joining to provide the presentation following up to our last appearance.
Looks like Imad may be having some microphone issues. David, if you wouldn't mind offering some details on the project in general while Imad works on that.
Happy to set the stage. David Linhart with Wilson Stores, here with the project team for Bartlett Place. And following up to previously presenting improvements to Lambert Ave, both improvements and also widening relocation. And this is with respect to a master plan that has involved improvements to an entire block, 3 of the streets around that block. This is sort of the rounding out of that block. It's the the last sidewalk, Lambert Ave, to allow the project to move forward. Our last appearance 3 weeks ago, there was we had some homework on the Lambert Ave improvements. And Imad is shortly going to show where we've arrived with the design to address concerns we heard.
Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you,
Imad.
Okay. So I'd like to present. Is that under present now? I can share my screen?
Yes, please do.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, under the first item on the agenda for the widening of the Lambert Ave, as you see on the screen, is the proposed widening, which is approximately just under 5,800 square feet. This widening will allow the installation of on-street parking, proposing 21 parking spaces and installation of a new sidewalk with street trees. That's basically what this proposal is for the first item.
Imad and the petitioners, I just want to reiterate the way how this on-street parking is being characterized at the public hearing. These are not private parking spots.
Correct. Correct.
So you are just widening the roadway for the use of a parking lane that will be regulated by the city, as to be determined by the City of Boston Transportation Department for the general use of the citizens of Boston.
Correct.
Is that your understanding? Because I believe at the new business hearing, as well as just a few seconds ago, you classified that as parking spots. It is not to be inferred to the project nor to the general audience that these are dedicated parking spots. So could you please recharacterize the usage of the purpose of the widening and relocation of Lambert?
So the purpose is the creation of new parking spaces that will be, the land will be given to the city, obviously, so the parking spaces will be for the total use, absolute use of the city of Boston.
Thank you, Imad. I appreciate that. Any questions or comments by fellow commission members about this petition? Hearing none, any comments by PSC staff and or to this audience?
No, we await the submission of highway easement for this widening, and I will mention that a number of years ago, when the first phase of this project came through, the highway easements that should have been granted then just slipped through the cracks, and the project will be submitting those easements as well at this time.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate you doing that house cleaning follow-up work. So hearing no further comments by PSC staff and or to this audience, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 10.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Bartlett Place Land Incorporated for the widening and relocation of the right-of-way lines on Lambert Avenue, as further read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, on a petition by Bartlett Place Land Inc. for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Roxbury, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalk, and roadway reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, street trees, stormwater drainage infrastructure, and driveway curb cuts. Lambert Ave on its southeasterly side between Bartlett Street and Hill Street. Bartlett Street on its southwesterly side between Lambert Ave and Bartlett Station Drive. Gill Street on its northeasterly side between Lambert Ave and Thornton Street. This was introduced under new business on March 25th of this year, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, Guild and Bartlett Streets and Lambert Ave, Roxbury, 4 sheets dated March 20th, 2021.
Again, for the record, my name is Imad Zurain from Develop Zurain, representing Bartlett Place Inc. Since the new business hearing last time, there was a couple of items that we needed to address. Particularly was the radii for the bump outs. As Mr. Liming has requested, we changed all those radii to 10-foot radii only coming in and out. As you can see in this bump out here and these bump outs here. There was also some questions regarding the curb ramps. We've since worked with, coordinated with Ms. Long. And we've added some detectable warning on the reciprocal ramp. We've also added an additional ramp along the intersection of Lambert and Bartlett on the reciprocal side to make that more accessible. The project as a whole, as you on this sheet here for Lambert Ave, we are adding those parking spaces we just talked about in the previous hearing. There are 21 parking spaces with new curb, granite curb, street trees, and a 9.5-foot sidewalk. The rest of the project entails work on Gill Street and Bartlett Street. On those 2 streets, we're basically extending the phase 1 reconstruction of the sidewalk. So it's basically just reconstruction of the sidewalk, resetting of the curb, and adding where we can within the right-of-way new street trees, particularly on Bartlett Street, where we added 5 new trees. That's basically.
Thank you, Imad. Questions by fellow commission members? Hearing none. Comments or concerns by PSC staff and all today's audience?
We appreciate Imad working with us on the curve radii. Looks like there is one more that needs to be addressed, the interior radii closest to the corner of Lambert and Millmont. We'll just expect that to be updated on the Mylar.
That's fine.
Yes, the 90 degrees just doesn't do it, so just do it with the reverse curve on that in Imad.
Although this one, the grades, it's going from left to right, the contours left to right. To, the issue was it become a corner to collect sand and what have you, but this is a high point. So we figured there's no need for the 10-foot radius, but if you like us, we could make it 10-foot radius.
Yes, please update that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's both a function of drainage, Imad, and for us to effectively do street sweeping. Okay, so that all being said, I'd like to get a motion regarding public hearing number 11.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by Bartlett Place Land Inc. for the making of specific repairs in Lambert Ave, Bartlett Street, and Guild Street.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, the last public hearing, number 12, on a petition by XNet Systems Inc. for a grant of location with lead company status and no participants to install new telecommunication conduits with city shadow within the following public ways in East Boston: Maverick Square between Winthrop Street and Summer Street, Winthrop Street between Paris Street and Maverick Square, Paris Street northeast of Winthrop Square, Summer Street southeast of Maverick Square. This was brought under new business on March 25th, 2021, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Grant of Location Plan, Winthrop Street, Maverick Square, Summer Street, Boston, 5 sheets dated December 2020.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Dave Gajan with NBNC on behalf of Exonet. Joined by Dan Ryan, NBNC Engineering Manager. Dan is pulling up our project plans. So just, as you mentioned, Exonet seeking grant location for the placement of fiber conduit, city shadow duct. This will be in support of new proposed small cell installations, part of a larger ongoing effort, throughout the city for Exonet and upgrading, expanding their network. So I'll just run real quick through the track. Begins on Paris Street from the hub, runs south on Paris across, east across Winthrop, south down Maverick Square, passes in front of Maverick Square Station onto Sumner. From there, it steps aerially to the aforementioned proposed small cells. Let's see, so our proximity to the Maverick Square stations prompted a license application that we have currently going on in process with the MBTA. That sits in basically a review and comment period. Besides that, we've worked with Sarah at the Disabilities Commission addressing any HPDV parking spaces that might be affected, as well as the sidewalk to remain open on the north side of Paris Street. And just to bring forward comments from our previous hearing, our new business hearing. Just we acknowledge that the city's done a lot of work in this area, and would work to make the appropriate restorations to keep that work intact. So with that, that's the round we open up to any comments, or happy to answer any questions that could be out there.
Thank you. I appreciate you recognizing our sensitivity to the investment that has been done, especially at Maverick Square. So could you amplify ever so kindly as to the level of extra care you will be undertaking to ensure that the restoration of the surface will actually look as good as it is right now, or slightly better, not making us go backwards?
I'm sorry, you asked for more detail in that, or yeah, we acknowledge that we would need to do that for sure.
Yes, and it will be nice for us to have a point of contact, because in most situations of this nature, the entities that actually do the construction work is someone disconnected from us and maybe you. So I would very much appreciate if you would stay as engaged as you are with this project until the job is done, and then you get to go back and say, your assets were buried, and the surface still looks as it needs to be to serve the people of East Boston and the neighbors of Maverick Square. So if you could help us with that, that will be a step in the helpful direction.
Yeah, we're happy to stay involved as point of contact and run any correspondence or comments through us for sure. And me.
Thank you. Just want to put that thing on the record, because one thing I love about this, it's everything we say is being paid. So it's reassuring in case if I forget what I say. So that being said, are there any other comments by fellow commission members regarding this item? Hearing none, comments by PIC staff and or today's orders.
One thing I'll mention, and this was an oversight on my part, the trench detail on page 5 will need to be updated to show the city shadow conduit.
Okay. Noted, for sure.
Sorry, hey Todd, I can't see the actual limits of the dig. Is any of it going in the median section of Maverick Square, the T station itself, or is it all on the roadway?
I believe it's all within the roadway, but the project can confirm that.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, this will be a little bit of a scar going down that area, and you will go to great lengths to ensure that the cuts are uniform, straight, and not as if the equipment malfunction, and the restoration is kind and gentle to the way the surface needs to be. Okay? Otherwise, we will be forced to look for your guidance to do curb-to-curb paving within the Maverick Square itself. All right. So let me see. Questions answered. At this point, I'd like to hear a motion by commission member.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by Extenet Systems for a grant of location in Maverick Street, Winthrop Street, Paris Street, and Sumner Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, folks. At this point, we'll move to the new segment of our agenda. First item, Franklin Street, Boston proper, specific repairs on a petition by MCAF Winthrop LLC.
Thank you, Para.
Hi, Kathy.
I'm just trying to present. Kathy McNeil, my colleague Hallie will pull up our presentation for what's addressed as 1 Franklin Street here, but which many of you may know as the Tontine Crescent. So, Hallie, thank you.
Yep. So, good afternoon. My name is Hallie Thomas. I represent MCAF Winthrop, a division of Millennium Partners. I'm here today with Kathy McNeil, who just introduced herself. We are currently building the Winthrop Square building, just a couple blocks down and around the corner. We are here today with our landscape architects for the project, Shauna Gillis-Smith and Curtis Puncher from Ground Landscape Architects. We are also joined by Robbie Burgess and Hans Kubler of Howard Stein Hudson, Brian Taff and Jessica Fernandez of Suffolk Construction, and Elnita Laracell of the Downtown Improvement District. So we are here today presenting the permanent construction of Tontine Crescent on Franklin Street and Downtown Crossing. I'm going to give just a brief history of the project, and then we'll turn it over to the design team to go into the design details. So this is just a location map of where the project is located. It's in downtown district between Franklin Street and Holly Street. So this is a picture of Franklin Street back in 2016 as a part of Millennium, when we were building Millennium Tower, which is just a block. We were asked to create a design to narrow Franklin Street. Franklin Street is one way, and it was previously 3 lanes that bottlenecked down to a single lane. So this is just what Franklin Street previously looked like back in 2016. After we created that design, the city did a pop-up in 2016 to test the design of what it would look like to narrow the street. It was a success. So in 2018, as a part of our mitigation for Winthrop, we were asked to do a temporary tactile pedestrian plaza. Prior to the construction of this, we came to PIC. We had a series of public meetings. We met with various city agencies, including BTD, various people at the BPA team, including urban design, public realm, planning, landmarks, disabilities commission. After this was constructed, we did do a series of traffic studies and parking studies to confirm this geometry worked. So now we are here today to present the permanent construction of that plaza. So from here, I will hand it over to Shauna Ground to present the design.
Thank you very much, Holly, and hello, everyone. As you can see on the screen, this is the plan of the permanent condition. And with a very minor modification that Robbie will go into in a moment, the geometry follows the test case, the tactical test case that Millennium Partners, along with the City of Boston, constructed for the Tactical Plaza. So along the outboard of the plaza is a raised cycle track. The plaza is at the level of the sidewalk, with leaving the existing sidewalk with the cobblestones intact, and adjacent to that is a new poured concrete sidewalk, providing a very smooth surface all the way through the plaza to the terminus at the larger corner. Throughout the plaza are concrete pavers that are the same pavers in Shoppers Park that was reviewed directly, specifically with the commission, and a trench drain capturing the water between the two. The planters are located, they're large precast concrete planters, and we have an image of that in a moment, located throughout the plaza in a manner that allows for easy movement between it, and also for the setup of temporary tables and chairs when the weather is well. But the planters also have built-in benches, so that there is other opportunities for sitting and opportunities for sitting when the temporary furniture has been moved indoor. The trees, there's 2 trees within the ground plane, but the other trees are located within these large scale planters, and bike racks on the corner. An existing sculpture that was located in the middle of Franklin Street is being relocated in the middle of one of the planters, and that has been reviewed with the Art Commission. Perhaps we could go to the next image. And this gives a sense of what that feels like. So you can see that the planters have a little bit of an asymmetrical seating arrangement, but that there's a lot of space in between them for both movement and to set up, for the bid to set up temporary tables and chairs. And an idea of what the planting would be. The tree species related in the ground relating to the elms that are in Shoppers Park, they'll be in structural soil as well, and then flowering perennials and low ground cover. And then moving over to Robbie or Hans to go into the more specific design of the improvements.
Thank you, Shauna. Mr. Burgess from Howard Stein, I think you are on.
Sorry, I was muted. Good morning. My name is Robbie Burgess from Howard Stein Hudson. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson and Commission members, for considering this project today. As mentioned, the work shown on the specific repair plan proposes to build the existing temporary plaza into a permanent plaza. The design before you today benefits greatly by having been in the temporary condition for almost 3 years. So we learned a lot about the operation and the details and how the plaza worked within the roadway network. Prior to implementation of the temporary condition, the project team worked closely with the city departments to study how the design would fit and operate within the roadway network. This included traffic analysis. We did pedestrian counts, bicycle counts, vehicle counts. during morning peaks, midday peaks, and afternoon peaks. We did traffic operations analysis. We did truck maneuvering analysis. We did fire truck modeling. We did pre and post traffic or parking studies to determine the impacts on parking in the area. We also did peak hour observations during the morning, midday, and afternoon peaks to see with our own eyes how the analysis actually, the results of the analysis. This data and the analysis confirmed that the Tontine Crescent Plaza provides significant public benefits without negative impacts to the functionality of the roadway network. So without being redundant, I'll go over some of the civil engineering elements of the plan. So moving outwards from the building face, we first have the existing granite sidewalk. These are granite slabs over areaways or hollow sidewalks. Within these areaways are building side utility services like gas meters, water services, etc. We studied these, and it was determined that it was too much of an impact to try to replace these granite slabs, as well as there was a desire to maintain some of the historical relevancy of this type of material. So to address the irregularities of the granite slabs, the project proposes a cement concrete path of travel, as Shauna mentioned. So this features saw cut joints, cement concrete, ADA compliant path of travel adjacent to the existing granite walkway. And the result is about 15 feet of walking space combined between the building frontage and the plaza area. So a generous walk area and a compliant path of travel. Street lighting is the second item where we saw some improvements. We are proposing 3 new double acorns in the plaza. We are proposing 2 new single acorns in the plaza. And we are relocating 2 existing single acorn lights for better light distribution in the plaza. Along with this, we are proposing pedestrian level lighting and spotlights to further illuminate the plaza, resulting in a well-lit plaza to be enjoyed daytime and nighttime. We coordinated with water and sewer. The project proposes to relocate 1 existing hydrant curbside to within the new plaza on the northwest corner. And we are also proposing 1 drop inlet and sump drainage component as requested by water and sewer. And the plaza drainage, which is a trench drain that runs most of the length of the plaza, will not be maintained by the city. So an important distinction there. We also coordinated with Boston Transportation. The project proposes to remove the existing overhead mast arm and replace that with 10-foot signal posts, which is more consistent with a plaza experience than to have the steel overhead mast arm. We are also proposing a grade separated cycle track, as Shauna mentioned, that will replace the existing at-grade bike lane. Currently, we have a full set of pavement markings, signage, and traffic signals. Of course, the light goes out. Traffic signals in with Boston Transportation Department at the 25/75% design level. We also coordinated with the mayor's office for persons with disabilities. This coordination resulted in several improvements. First, the separation of the apex ramp on the northwest corner of Franklin Street into 2 perpendicular ramps. I wish I could point to show you, but I can't. And then on the southwest corner of the intersection, we are relocating a traffic signal post so that we can reconstruct a compliant ramp at that location also. As mentioned, we have an accessible path of travel that runs the length of the plaza. Additionally, we have sidewalk area at the intersection instead of a paver material, and that will provide access to trash receptacles, recycling, mailbox, and as well as the pedestrian push buttons. We also coordinated with the Parks Department, or we reached out to the Parks Department and are happy to entertain any comments that they may have. But an important distinction is that they have no maintenance obligations as part of the Tontine Crescent. It's all covered under the license, maintenance, and indemnification agreement. In addition to the specific repair plans, we have 9 sheets of construction details to provide information on how we plan to construct all the elements, protect utilities, and build the project. This concludes my part of the presentation. I will turn it back over to Hallie now, and I will be available for any questions that may come up. And thank you.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thanks, Robbie. I'll actually jump in here. And Robbie mentioned a license and maintenance agreement. It is the intention of the project to create a license and maintenance agreement for this plaza. We are attempting to do that in coordination with the Boston Improvement District, the BID. We've made great strides, but anytime we're trying to do something a little different, it takes some creativity. So we're not there yet, but we do expect that we can make that happen, because if anyone can, Millennium can. So we look forward to bringing this to the public hearing in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Kathy. And I am in the background tremendously aware of the hard work which you all and Anita and the big people, all of you all are doing to get that maintenance agreement squared away, and I truly appreciate your collective efforts. So at this point, I'll open the this item for comments by fellow commission members.
This is Joe Callahan, Property Management. Does the LMI include snow and ice clearing and removal?
So that's one of the issues that we're challenged with. Unlike LMIs that are directly adjacent to a developer's property, this is outside of our building area, so we're having some challenges with our financing institutions taking on the full maintenance and repair obligations. So we're working with the BID to try to coordinate that. At issue, we have agreed as a community that the plaza itself would not necessarily have a snow removal aspect. The sidewalks would be removed by the property owners adjacent to it, as they're required to do. And we're down to negotiating who will plow the cycle track. So in all honesty, we have not resolved that, but we understand that, that is an open item that needs to be resolved in the LMI.
But, okay, thank you. And I mean, snow plows coming up could conceivably push snow onto the plaza, but I mean, as of right now, there's no plan to allow piles to accumulate. I hope there's no plan to, if we get a heavy snowstorm and some plows may push snow there, just that there's no intent to let piles accumulate that could block site views.
No, the intention is, and I said that we may not completely remove snow from this area, but it's not intended to be a stockpile location in any way, shape, or form. And the trench dam should help facilitate that. Should snow start to pile up, we could use the power, the heat guns to melt it.
Thank you.
Any other comments by commission members?
Yes, Brian Horan, Inspectional Services Department.
Go ahead, Brian.
I had just a question. We are currently prosecuting the owner of 50 Franklin Street as well. So is this park, I don't know how close this proposed area is to there's a sidewalk vault areaway issue directly across from it. which I'm not sure how far the infrastructure goes under the street and under this particular project. Did just want to make you aware of that, if you're not already, and if this particular installation will actually impact the existing underground infrastructure of the sidewalk and of the building.
So, thank you, Mr. Ronan. We are aware of the work that 50 Franklin Street plans to undertake. We have not clarified their schedule, but there is a demarcation between their basement vaults, which we actually investigated with our structural engineer, so we're aware of where that demarcation. And our intention is to coordinate with them, but they have not been the most forthcoming with their plans. However, they are there is a way to make them two distinct properties.
Okay, and your structural, I haven't seen, I saw the report, the initial report from your structural engineer. I just want to know if there was anything additional into that, if you're going to potentially affect their property. For us, this is for ISD, this is an active court case. So I would want to work a little closer with your design team on that as we move forward with our case.
Yeah, we're starting, we have slightly modified the design from when we were previously looking at this, and we're starting our construction outside of the existing sidewalk. So we're not touching any sidewalk that is vaulted.
Okay. If it would be possible, could you get me in touch with the contractor?
Definitely, yep.
Okay, just have them forward, or if you want to send me an email, or if you want to just forward my information to them, and I'll bring them up to speed on where we are.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Any other comments by fellow commission members?
Yes, I'd like to thank the team for their presentation. I think the newly expanded concrete sidewalk will be a great improvement to the area, especially in terms of connectivity and accessibility for people with disabilities. I just wanted to note that there is one outstanding item from our initial comments about the reciprocal ramp as you will cross Arch Street. So we just want to verify the compliance of that reciprocal ramp, and or if that ramp may need a AAB variance for compliance.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I omitted that part. Yes, we looked at that ramp that you mentioned, and it is non-compliant currently. And that area also has hollow sidewalks or areaways underneath, combined with utilities right at the corner. There's an Eversource vault. So we are preparing a variance application. We're just awaiting signatures to submit it. So thank you for identifying that. We looked at it in terms of making it compliant as part of this project, but there's just a lot of challenges in that corner.
Thank you so much for the update. I'll look forward to reviewing that variance once it gets filed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Robbie. Any other comments by commission members? Robbie, I have a couple of thoughts which I just need a point of clarification. So let's start off with the French drain that is in the middle. Did you say the maintenance of that thing belongs to whom? I just didn't hear that part correctly or clearly.
It does not belong to the city.
So not the cities, and then who is going to look after that? It is going to be what? Kathy?
Yeah, so that's part of the negotiations.
Right. Okay. So it's not the cities, and you are in those wonderful conversations with Anita's team, Rosemary's team. Okay, one down. Probably the next one is the bicycle, not the cycle track. Okay, the area where the cyclists are supposed to go. So today it is at street level, and tomorrow you are going to raise the baby up. Yes.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So that's going to sort of throw and limit the clear distance at the end, and towards the east side. I'm sorry, towards the west side you have a 13.5-foot opening between Edstone. There you go. Can you go to the 13.5? Yeah, just a little bit further up. So the 14.5, I was wrong. I was off by a foot. So that's a bit of a difference, right, Robbie? Because today, because I was listening to your testimony, and you said, you all studied the traffic flow conditions and all of that good stuff, but that was when this bicycle track was at flush with the roadway. Now this is going to be raised, basically effectively narrowing the roadway width. So from a fire department, because 14.5 feet is not the standard which we use for limiting the driving width, the roadway width. So could you add some conversations or clarifications as to how come we've gone from something that is about 18 to 20 feet for fire department, that's what fire department wants, to something that is 14.5?
Sure. Good question. The raised cycle track will replace the existing at-grade bike lane, which is delineated by quick curb and delineators, I guess, the vertical bicycle delineators. So it will emulate the existing geometry. I know that the fire department could obviously easily run over a delineator, and certainly a curb would be more challenging. We did do turning movements for this turn as well as on Arch Street, and as a result, on Arch Street, we modified the design to accommodate fire vehicles. And that was, in my recollection, that was the critical turn, but I will reconfirm that at the other intersection at Holly Street also, that works. And we're happy to reach out to BFD again. We had sent them several sketches for the temporary condition, and they approved the temporary condition. So I guess it makes sense to confirm the permanent condition with them also, if that's acceptable to the commission.
Robbie, I appreciate the amplification of your points, and you are right on target, this being the public hearing, this being the new business leading towards a public hearing that is going to have permanent conditions. It is important for your team and the fire department's team and the public works roadway engineering design team led by Mr. Bosworth to be on the same page. When that is there, it makes my task in this capacity a whole lot easier, okay? So just make sure that all of you folks, including Mr. Bosworth and Paul Donga, I'm going to assume Paul still at the fire department or his successor, we are all on the same page, because I'm a little bit concerned about all the high rises that are here in this area. And when we limit it to 14.5 feet to give adequate capacity for the fire trucks to come and do their thing is a concern that rests fully well within the fire department. So just want to make sure that issue is clear.
Yeah, Paul, so just to add to this, at the beginning of the temporary stage of this, we went all the way with the fire department. We brought trucks out here. We put the ladders up. We did all of, we spent a big time with multiple apparatus out here, deploying ladders and stuff. So I agree we could go back to the fire department, but I also agree with Robbie that their primary concern was around the turning, and that they didn't necessarily need to put outriggers down here, which is what that larger dimension is. And they wanted to make sure that they didn't have any turning issue with their apparatus, which we came and did turns around here for. So I agree. I think we should go back to whomever came out with those trucks to ask that follow-up question to confirm that they haven't had any problems with it. But we spent a long time at the beginning of the tactical portion to make sure that fire was okay.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you for all that pre-work. Just see, we are going from a temp situation to a perm situation, okay, and that's the whole function of PIC. And when something goes south, they are going to wonder where are the records. So just close the loop. That's all. I just want a paper trail to ensure that your interest, the city's interest, and the fire department interests are not compromised and not minimize the wonderful work that all of you have done to bring it to this point. Okay, so it's just like, dotting I's, crossing T's, that sort of stuff, but be on the same page. Okay, so that's all I have. And again, Kathy, truly appreciate the tremendous work which you all are doing with the bid team. And please continue as energized as you all are to bring it to a resolution before we entertain this thing for a public hearing. Okay?
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And I'm absolutely confident if anyone can do it, it is Tony and you and your team. You all are absolutely fantastic at this stuff. So any other comments by PIC staff and or audience?
The one, I guess, question I would pose to Kathy and Anita and the rest of the team here, I know there, as we mentioned, there are some outstanding issues with the LMI. Would it make sense to perhaps give ourselves 4 weeks to work through those issues rather than 2 and come back to the PIC in May? Or do you feel that you can get all of that wrapped up in 2 weeks?
Todd, I'd really like to try for the 2-week time frame. I think as the city reopens, it would be a wonderful gift to downtown, which quite frankly is a little gritty right now. I really want this plaza to be ready for late summer, early fall. Therefore, we need to get going. With your permission, if I could say, put us on the agenda in 2 weeks, and if we have to pull, I'd rather pull than not put on the agenda.
Done. So we will schedule for 2 weeks, and if all the ducks will line up, we will continue. But there's nothing like the pressure of having a deadline. So again, I truly appreciate your thoughts, Kathy. Let's make this city as wonderful as it needs to be, as it can be. So we will mark it up for 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, new business item number 2, Dalton Street, Boylston Street, Hereford Street, Roxbury, Boston proper. Specific repairs on a petition by City of Boston Public Works Department. Todd, I'm not sure whether that's in Roxbury. My memory is losing it. Okay.
It's just over the line.
Just at the line. All right, Public Works.
Hi, Joe Fleury here, Boston Public Works. I'm going to give a brief overview of the project and pass it off to Faisal Hussaini, who's our civil and traffic consultant from Niche Engineering, and we also have Darren Conboy here with Jacobs Engineering, in case there's any questions on our structural side. So Boston Public Works is doing some maintenance work on the Dalton Street Bridge, generally in the area of Boylston Street, over the Mass Pike Railroad, and Cambria Street. Project includes some substructure repairs to the piers and abutments, superstructure repairs to the structural steel, and deck replacement. As we kind of worked through the design of these repairs, we were asked to perform some improvements to the approaches, both on Boylston Street and Dalton Street. And this is us coming and doing the PIC action for those improvements. With that, I'll toss it to Faisal, who will run through the specifics.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board for giving us this opportunity to present this project to you. As Joe mentioned, this project is really a bridge rehab project or reconstruction, and we have added to the limits of the project to provide some improvements for ADA accessibility and also for providing a multi-mode type access for bicycle lanes and improve on the sidewalks and the conditions in that area. Just to orient you, so north toward the, up the screen, and Boylston Street runs in the east-west direction. As you can see, the highlighted area is the limit of the project, and Hereford Street is right at the corner of the Boston Fire Department, which is right at the center of it. And the limits of the project in Dalton does extend up to Scotia Street. From the street view, again, if we are standing on Dalton Street, you can see that the fire department is all the way across. On the right-hand side is the Heinz Convention Center. And the existing condition, there is, I just want to point this island on the street itself to delineate the both direction of traffic on Dalton. This is if we're standing on Boylston Street and looking to the east. Again, the Heinz all the way across the street, and then also on the left-hand side is the fire department on that location. So the highlighted area is really the limit of the bridge construction, and as you can see it runs right on top of the I-90. The MBTA lines, and also there is the ramp that goes below the Heinz at the loading dock area. So to kind of start at the east on the limit of Scotia Street for the project, there is this highlighted area in here, the hatched area against the Heinz building. This was done initially, was planned as a separate project, and then we combined it with this project because this is kind of concurrent together. And this area, because of the sidewalk slope, cross slope was so steep, we had to make something to accommodate a clear path that's ADA accessible. So as you can see in this detail in here, what we ended up doing a little kind of island and curved on both sides, and we put some large stone rivers, large river stone around it to kind of to have a use other than a landscape or have people use it as a seating area. So the sidewalk, you see some of the areas are bulb outs. To find the parking area. There's a parking area in here, and there is a drive in for the loading dock into the Heinz itself. And if we go down, there is this island that I mentioned before. This island will come out at the beginning of the construction, and we are not putting it back in. And also on Hereford, so next to the fire station, there is that corner is pretty tight, and so what we ended up doing is bulbing it out to provide for 2 wheelchair ramps or 2 pedestrian ramps, and then allow for the directional crossings of Boylston Street and Hereford. If you go to the limit of the line here, the dashed line, I hope it's clear, is that from there down, this is a separate projects, and these ramps are not included in this project. They will be on the part of the second project. So the limit of this project ends basically at there with dashed line along the curb line of Hereford in here, in this area. Down on this side, again, the sidewalk was pretty narrow and very challenging to provide for a pedestrian ramp. So we ended, because alongside the curb line, there is it's a parking lane. So we ended up also bulbing out to provide a standard wheelchair ramp that crosses across. We did an assessment of the existing ramps, pedestrian ramps across the street, and it does meet the ADA and everything consistent. So, and you can see the bridge limits of the production goes right into the intersection itself. This is the pavement marking and signing, so just to give you a perspective about the lane arrangements. As you come on Dalton Street, on the south of Scotia, basically it's a 1 lane, come into extend into 2 lanes. All the design, all the work has been really based on the coordination that we had with the Boston Transportation Department and also with the Public Works Department. And then we extended into a left lane only, and one is kind of through right lane. We maintain the existing bicycle lane in the south side, on the west side of the Dalton Street. And also we provide for the bicycle access within the signalized intersection. This is a kind of signalized intersection. As you can see, the crosswalks will be established to provide nice and good circulation within the area. And, Boylston Street is a one-way in this direction, and Haverford is one way away from the intersection itself. This is some of the signal plan. Basically, what we are doing minimum work on the signal equipment. There's an existing mast on. We're not touching that. And adjacent to it, we are putting a signal post because we have removed that medium island. There was a signal post on it. We are putting it on the side. So we are adding a post with the signal head, basically, and a pedestrian signal head. And also across the street, we're having another post that's going to be 16 feet high, and that will also hold the video detection on the bridge itself. Other than that, we are not doing much, basically, for the signal equipment. And basically, this is in a nutshell an overview of the project.
Thank you, Faisal. Any comments by commission members?
I just want to quickly note that our commission had sent comments yesterday, so we certainly don't expect them to be reflected in these plans. But one notable request is that on the south side of that intersection, if it's feasible to achieve 2 ramps on each corner, just to make the crossings a little bit more straightforward as you cross Boylston Street. But we can certainly coordinate between the 2 weeks between new business and public hearing.
Yes, Sarah, we're happy to have those discussions. The only thing I want to point out is the south side of this intersection. That pedestrian ramp is actually on a Mass DOT bridge. So we really do not want to touch that if at all possible, just crossing jurisdictional lines. So where Faisal's pointing right now, we can certainly have that discussion. I'm happy to take a look at that. But on the other corner, I'm just loath to get into the DOT bridge.
And just to add to that, we did have a lengthy discussion about that location, and we intended to have 2 ramps initially, but it was physically kind of challenging to really accommodate that condition. And again, we'll continue the discussion with you. Perfect.
Any other further comments by commission members? Faisal, just a point of clarification, the segment of Boylston Street between Dalton and Mass Ave. No,
yes.
Between Dalton and Mass Ave. I don't think that's a one-way street. I think it's a 2-way street, right?
I apologize for that, yes.
So can you get rid of that one-way sign?
Yep.
That's not correct. Okay, Mr. Living, is there any comments by the PIC staff or to the audience?
No, none.
Okay, just for the record, the surface work is part of a multi-million-dollar bridge project. I always like when bridge projects that are $20-30 million translate to some work on the street. Joseph, roughly how much are you spending on the bridge itself, the Dalton Street Bridge project?
Closer to 15.
Good Lord. Okay. All right. Good stuff, everyone, all around. So we will mark this thing up for 2 weeks, which would be April 29?
29.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Next item, new business item number 3, Beacon Street, Park Street, Bowden Street, Boston proper, specific repairs on a petition by City of Boston Public Works Department.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for allowing us to present today. My name is Zach Wasmuth. I'm Chief Design Engineer for the Public Works Department. I'm joined by Faisal Hussaini from Niche Engineering, who is the consultant that the city has hired to work on this design. I'll just give a brief introduction and then I'll kick it over to Faisal to bring up the presentation to present the details. But we're very excited to present this project. This has been a long-standing issue out here at this intersection as far as pedestrian space and accessibility for in accessing. It's right along the Freedom Trail. It's in front of the Shaw Memorial. It's next to the Common across from the State House and everything. So it's a high pedestrian traffic area, and we want to make some improvements here to make this safer for pedestrians and all users. We've been presenting this project to a number of entities. I have a laundry list that I'll go through right now. We've met with the State House, the superintendent, with their operations folks. We've met with State Rep Livingstone. We've met with Senator Boncour. We've met with City Councilor Bach, City Councilor Flynn. We've met with the Parks Department and the Friends of the Public Garden, coordinating our design closely with the Shaw Memorial work that's going on right now and be wrapping up in the next month or so. We've met with the Disabilities Commission. We have met with the Freedom Trail Commission. We had a brief meeting with the Boston Architectural Commission. We're also on their agenda this evening for an advisory hearing to talk about the project, and we'll also be on the upcoming agenda for the Landmarks Commission as well, because those are two areas where this project just kind of touches. We've also been we've also met and shown this project to the Beacon Hill Civic Association. Overall, with all those folks that we've met with, the project has been met with in general overwhelming support. And we're really happy to be presenting this design. I will say that there's a couple things that we're still working on the fine details, specifically with our conversations with Beacon Hill Architectural and the Beacon Hill Civic with regards to the materials and on the ramps and everything. So we're working on the fine details on the grading and the bricks and everything, and we're working that through with both of those entities. But we'll plan on having that resolved by the time we get the final approval. But overall, the design has been met with great support. So to kick it over to Faisal to kind of go over some of the details of the design.
Thank you, Zach, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. My name is Faisal Hussaini, and we are the design engineer from Niche Engineering. So this is the kind of the project location area that's highlighted in red color. And you can see the surrounding is right in front of the State House. And as Zach mentioned, the location is a very significant and critical location for the city. Again, from a street view, you can see looking on Beacon Street toward the east, where the State House on the left, and then the Boston Common is on the right-hand side. This is a very active area by pedestrians, visitors, and a lot of traffic as well, and also for large buses that comes to that area. This area, this intersection is, if we did the rendering of the proposed condition, and the goal for the project is to widen that sidewalk along the east side of Beacon Street, and then it's done in a transitional way. Basically, we are meeting with the existing sidewalk toward the west, and then we widen into the, it's about 4.5 feet, and then we go into 8.5 feet drop-off area for buses, and then it widens up to 15 feet at the the remaining section up to Park Street. You can see the Freedom Trail that kind of stops out the two pair of stairs that are on the common side, and then you can very wide crosswalk, highlighted crosswalk, basically that crosses to the side of the State House. This is if we are going straight again on Beacon Street toward Bowdoin, and then again the sidewalk. It's an average of 7 feet sidewalks, And also there is a lot of people that does walk through that area. And then on the right-hand side, a lot of activity for commercial vehicles and parking and on the right-hand side. And the sidewalk also is pretty limited width as well. And then for the proposed condition, you can see that this is a rendering, kind of define the travel way. In the prior image, just to go back, there's a lot of conflict. People, the vehicle tending to go straight. Sometimes they stay in the left, and they try to go straight, and vehicle on the right trying to turn left. So this area tend to be a very conflicting point. So that's why we're redefining that in earlier and providing the proper warning. Then vehicle turning left can stay in the left lane, and then vehicle going through stay in the right lane. Elevating the crosswalks. This will be an elevated crosswalk between along Bowden, and then also along Beacon Street, and we're creating some daylighting in here to kind of push the parked vehicle a little bit back and improve the safety for people for pedestrian crossings. So this is looking back into the stairs where it comes from the common for people, and the large volume of people, they come and they wait basically on those stairs, trying to waiting for the signal to cross the street. And then the Shaw Plaza, as again, is very popular destination. A lot of people gather around that area, and then as you can see, people sometimes they have to walk into the street to really continue on the sidewalk, and then avoid other people that are looking. Enjoying the plaza itself, basically. And so the goal is really, as we said, to widen that sidewalk and provide, delineate the Freedom Trail. The Freedom Trail will be shifted, for a distance, which is ranging between about 8.5 to 6, actually between 6 feet and 8 feet in this area. And then this is kind of the overall layout of the project on the for the material use and also for the delineation and painting. For the Freedom Trail itself, and then the material, again, everything alongside the State House is going to be brick. And we are using for the tactile at the ramps, we're using the cast iron steel. That's color red. And also we're proposing to kind of have the material for the Freedom Trail as we coordinate with the Freedom Trail people. And with that, I conclude this presentation.
Faisal, do you have the actual PIC plans that have been submitted to the PIC Commission for the Commission to comment?
Yep.
I like your presentation, but where are the actual PIC plans?
Yep. Okay. Sorry. So this is the PIC plan, and you can see that the curb being moved out on the Boston Common side, on the east side, and for that distance. Now we have, instead of having the 4-foot walkways, we do have 15 feet. And then that also kind of go down to 8.5 feet in this area, and then goes back to the 4 foot as to match the existing. There is a little we are kind of tightening the curve in this area because as I said, Bowdoin is one way away, and that makes things possible for a large, buses turning. Then it does not interfere with that radius. And we do have, again, to improve to have two pedestrian ramps and then improve crossings. We are doing a bulb out on this southeast corner of Park and Beacon.
Thank you. At this point, comments or questions by fellow commission members? Hearing none, comments by PIC staff and or members of today's audience.
Sure. Patricia Mendez of the Disabilities Commission.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Para, can you hear me?
Yes, Patricia, we can hear you. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. My name is Patricia Mendez. I work for the Disabilities Commission, and I just want to mention that we are sharing the excitement for this project in support. And we are working closely with Zach and his team and all the conversations that there are many conversations. We strongly believe that this is important for the location, which is it involves the history of the city, also involves access to government in the State House. So we're super excited and we're working very closely regarding all the details, coordination, and materials. Thank you.
Patricia, thank you for all your support, your guidance, and your engagement. It is valuable to support the efforts that Zach and his team are trying to do, which is to make Boston better than any other place. So my thanks and gratitude to all of you.
Yes, thank you, Patricia.
You're welcome.
Any other comments?
Yes, Rob Whitney.
Sorry. Hello. Yeah, I'm Rob Whitney. I'm the chair of the board of the Beacon Hill Civic Association. I also want to applaud the city on this design. The Civic Association has always been strongly in favor of increasing access for persons with disabilities within the historic district, and portions of this plan include parts within the Beacon Hill Historic District. I also wanted to thank Zach as well and the BTD for working with us on trying to make some improvements to the design, particularly with respect to some of the materials that we've been recently discussing and are going to continue to discuss to make a great plan. I just did want to also let the commission know that there is an agreement between the city and the Civic Association with respect to sidewalk improvements and intersection improvements within the historic district, and the city and the Civic Association are working together collaboratively to try to implement that agreement with respect to this plan. So I look forward to continuing those discussions and coming out with a great result. Thank you.
Mr. Whitney, Rob, thank you so much for joining us. And furthermore, thank you for your ongoing engagement with us and with the community, because it is individuals such as you that make Boston better than, no, I should say better. It continues to be the best. So Rob, thank you for all that you do. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
Yes, thank you, Rob.
Mr. Lining, any further comments by audience members today?
I see none.
Okay, so Zach, are you of the opinion that we should be able to resolve any outstanding dotting I's, crossing T's stuff within the next 2 weeks?
Yes, at this point, I think we can do that. We've been working closely with Rob, and we have the advisory review tonight with Beacon Hill. So anything that comes up with that, we'll continue to work with those folks to work out any of those fine details. I'm pretty confident at this point in time that we'll be ready to present again for a public hearing in 2 weeks.
And if I remember correctly, there's a bit of an urgency to get things going because you are trying to find a window of opportunity to do this construction.
Yes. To speak to that, as I alluded to in the beginning, the Shaw Memorial will be wrapping up. I believe their current schedule is to wrap up by the end of May. So we're hoping to get the design approved and everything and get all these details worked out so that we have a window of opportunity to start this construction hopefully in June, to get this in over the summer. And there's potentially a planned event coming in the fall regarding the Shaw Memorial and everything. So just trying to, dot the I's and cross the T's on all of this. Obviously getting the materials and everything correct is of the utmost importance. The devil is in the details, and we really want to grind down in the next, couple days and everything, and just make sure we get everything finalized so that we can get this project going. We're very excited about it.
Zach, thank you for your dedication and for your whole team's effort to keep plodding away and to make this thing happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So we'll mark this thing up for 2 weeks for April 29th.
Correct.
Good. See you folks in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Avenue Louis Pasteur, Roxbury, specific repairs on a petition by MASCO, more commonly known as Medical, Academic, and Scientific Community Organization, Inc.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Jan.
Hi. Good afternoon, Chairman Jai Singh and Commission members. My name is Janice Henderson, and I'm a senior planner with MASCO. I have with me Kyle Zick from KZLA. He's our landscape architect on this project. MASCO is a nonprofit that serves the 22 hospitals and colleges, our member institutions in the Longwood medical and academic area. We also consider ourselves as stewards of the LMA, and this includes caring for the trees. And we have a small project to present to you, and I'll turn it over to Kyle.
Jan, I obviously had an advanced preview on this, and before the illustrious Mr. Kyle Zick tells what he's going to say, Jan, on behalf of the city, my applause to MASCO, to you, to all of you for taking the leadership with projects of this nature. Truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kyle, do your thing.
Thank you. My name is Kyle Zick with Kyle Zick Landscape Architecture. So the project we have are streetscape improvements on Avenue Louis Pasteur. It's a pilot project right at the intersection of the Fenway. And just to give you a sense where we are, Avenue Louis Pasteur goes from Longwood Avenue to the Fenway. Our pilot project and the scope of this project is on the intersection of the Fenway on the eastern side. The project has some heritage. The design of Avenue Louis Pasteur goes back to 1905 by the Olmsted brothers, who envisioned it as an extension of the Harvard Medical School to the Emerald Necklace. So it was a formal boulevard, and we know this was implemented. Here's a picture from probably the 1920s in front of Boston Latin School with regularly spaced linden trees. These trees reached maturity in the early 2000s. MASCO has been a great steward partnering with the city of Boston to nurture these trees, but they've gone past maturity and declined. And over the past 20 years, we've actually lost a number of those large trees. So MASCO has been committing to figure out what is the succession plan for these trees to make the original vision of the boulevard true again. And it was a great opportunity to not just repeat what was done in the past. You know, we want to have the tree-lined boulevard, but is there an opportunity for the street and the streetscape to do more? And in fact, you know, the idea is, you know, could it actually do more in terms of stormwater treatment? So after initial conversations with PIC, engineering, Boston Parks Department, they encouraged us to continue, but instead of going forward with a large-scale project for the whole boulevard, to actually start a pilot project for a small area to actually evaluate different green infrastructure practices and techniques in this location, and after a 3-year period, then decide how to go forward. So the pilot project does evaluate 2 green infrastructure practices. One has subsurface piping under a lawn with street tree planting, and another is a rain garden with shrubs and perennials and street tree planting. The rain garden is what you would expect. It's a concave landform water comes in off the roadway and the public sidewalk into a forebay and then infiltrates. The other green infrastructure practice adds a new catch basin. That water comes in and then is infiltrated through under drainage under the lawn. Now, we've worked actively to have 2 local professors who have agreed to do monitoring over a 3-year period for this project. One professor in civil engineering at Wentworth and one professor of biology at Simmons. And they will do the water quality testing of water coming in and out of these treatments to be able to monitor the water quality, chemical composition, volume, and flow. And then also on the horticultural side, the health and vigor of the trees and plants. So hopefully after the 3-year period, one, we can share that information, which would inform other city projects, but also then decide which is going to be the best technique going forward for the avenue. Our PIC plans are shown here. This is about a 200-foot stretch along Avenue Louis Pasteur. And like I said, we have the rain garden practice and also the subsurface infiltration. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Kyle, just a point of reference. On the same side of Avenue Louis Pasteur, if you're heading left towards the Harvard Medical School, I think BLS is there, right? Our Latin school, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I hate to add more stuff to your wonderful work, but I wonder whether there's an opportunity for the wonderful, highly energized highly energetic, academically energetic BLS students to participate in some capacity. Catch them early towards these type of programs, so when they are in colleges and in professional lives, they will understand the value of it. Just throwing it out there, okay?
No, it's a good idea.
Let them also monitor, make it a term class or whatever the heck it is. But that is not PIC direction. That is just me connecting the dots as to the relevance of Avenue Louis Pasteur, because it does connect the medical school and BLS and all of that good stuff from eons ago, way before we got here. So that's my editorial thing. I'll open up the conversation or comments to fellow commission members. See, Jan, you have them speechless with doing. So hearing none, PIC staff or members of the audience today?
All set.
Again, Jan, my compliments to Masco. You are do engage and broaden the horizons of what we can do. Thank you for that. So we'll mark you up for 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item under our new business segment of our today's agenda, Chelsea Street at 16th Street, Charlestown, specific repairs on a joint petition by our planning agency, the Boston Planning Development Agency, and Massachusetts Port Authority.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. My name is William Epperson. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, William, you're good.
Thank you. I am Director of Capital Construction for the Boston Planning and Development Agency, and with me are co-petitioners from Massport, as well as members of the design team from HDR. As a quick introduction before I hand it off to them, the matter that brings us before the commission today is a component of a larger Harbor Walk project sponsored by the BPDA and Massport. It seeks to make an important connection between the stretch of Harbor Walk that exists in the Charlestown Navy Yard to the fragments that exist along the Mystic River heading towards Sullivan Square. Known as the Berry Field Connector, this project seeks to make a pedestrian connection from the Chelsea Street Bridge down to Berry Field. It will then connect to the Charlestown Athletic Fields through an isolated stretch of Harbor Walk near the Little Mystic Channel. And other phases of this project, unrelated to today's matter, will continue the connection all the way to Ryan Playground at the northwest edge of Charlestown. So we're very excited about this opportunity. As a quick point of clarity, I just want to point out that neither petitioner today is a property owner adjacent to the project location. Massport has agreed to design and construct this project in negotiations with the BPDA. the BPDA leases property to Massport in conjunction with the Charlestown Autoport, and the BPDA, in pursuit of a continuous harbor walk throughout the city of Boston, has leveraged our real estate holdings to bring this project to fruition. So with that, I'd like to introduce Connor LeBlanc of Massport, and he will introduce the rest of the team.
Thanks so much, William, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Connor LeBlanc, and I am a development manager with the Massachusetts Port Authority Real Estate Department. So building off of what William was saying in his introduction, Massport has spent a tremendous amount of time and effort collaborating closely with the BPDA and working with other city departments to advance this project. We're really excited about it. We think this Berryfield connector component in particular will be a really important and positive addition to the neighborhood and to the city as a whole. So we're looking forward to talking a little bit more about that today. I'm now going to turn things over to my colleague, Amy Blake Baldwin from Massport, who is the PM for the design and build process. Amy?
Thank you, Connor and William. Good afternoon, members of the commission. I appreciate your time, and I know that we've been going for a long time, so hopefully I can portray the information quickly and efficiently. You see on your screen that Rock has shared. Rock La Rochelle is from HDR. He's our design team. Hi, Rock. As you can see, that the Berryfield Path Connector, which is in the lower right-hand corner, circled in red, is merely one portion of our discussions with BPDA and our effort towards community benefits for the city as a whole. Component 2 will be some landscaping at the Moran Annex. This is the property in question that the lease pertains to. And then component 3 is the extension of the Harbor Walk even further along Medford Street, leading down to Main Street at Sullivan Square. Thank you. I apologize if you hear horns. There's a lot going on in my neighborhood. This slide shows the red dashed line is the current path that constituents and members of the public are using to get to the Harbor Walk to connect the 2 points. The purple line going under the Tobin Bridge. So I love this picture just because the aerial and the confusion and the levels of change really highlight what's going on here. The purple line will go under the Tobin Bridge and then up to Chelsea Street, and will then take you down to the Harbor Walk that goes into the Charlestown Navy Yard. And with that, I will turn it over to Rock La Rochelle from HDR.
Thanks, Amy. Appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for hearing us this morning. We really appreciate the time. This has been a really exciting project for us because of the impact that it's going to have on the community. So what you see in front of you now, we're going to walk you through kind of a little bit of the history on where this came from. This concept was developed back in 2019, by Massport, and was presented to various city officials at that time. This was a starting point for us in looking at this project, and as you can see on Chelsea Street here, it provides this connection here to the Harbor Walk down, down to the ramps down in this area down here. And the proposed feature was this stair and ramp system here that would make this connection to the existing Berryfield concept. Can you see my cursor, or does that not come through?
We can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so in looking at the original concept that was done in 2019, this shows you Chelsea Street up above, and then there's about a 6.5-foot drop here down to the park below. And in the foreground, you see the piers for the Tobin Bridge overhead, which is an important feature. This graphic here shows the original concept that was developed and how to get down from Chelsea Street to the park below on a ramp and stair system. And this is where we started from with the overall concept. Next, we developed a series of alternatives that kind of pushed that forward to the next step. And we provided this crossing, which is very similar to the original concept, started looking at what the overall design of this thing would need to look like in a vertical realm, and started developing some concepts that would take a look at how to break the existing aluminum 3-bar rail that's out there. This is a retaining wall. The aluminum rail sits up on top of that. And so there's some work that had to be done in coordination with Mass DOT to break that rail to actually make room for that opening. And that's what it looks like out there today. If you can, I can zoom up on that a little bit and give you a little bit better view. So that's coming out of 16th Street, looking due west to the intersection, and we're looking at breaking the rail right in this area. You can see from this graphic, there's a signal post, a mast arm here, and there's a signal post here, and another signal post here, which actually sits down below on the park side at the bottom side of the retaining wall that's there. Bear with me a second. So the major components, it's a direct connection to Chelsea Street. It's ADA accessible. There'll be rails and lighting required. There's going to be some bollards. I'll show you that in a minute. Guardrail modifications. Required some early coordination with Mass DOT to actually break that rail and submit a waiver request, because they actually have jurisdiction over any modifications to that existing rail system out there. And I know we've had some communication with the City of Boston as well, their structural folks, as well as other city departments. And one of the other things that we're offering is to restripe the Chelsea Street Bridge all the way to the other end, and actually, because right now there's no striping out there, so we're going to actually stripe it with 5-foot shoulders up there to guide traffic a little bit better along the way. This was an early rendering that was done to show what the opening would look like. This is not what we ended up settling on, but this gives you an idea of where and what it might look like based on the existing condition here. So this is really where we ended up. This is some three-dimensional graphics that were developed from the model that was created based on the final design. You'll see that the end posts are more vertical. This was done in coordination with both the city and Mass DOT in coming up with a concept that they would accept. And again, we're working with Mass DOT on a guardrail waiver request to actually break the rail and create the system here. So you can see coming directly off of the street, there's a 10-inch curb here that is on top of the retaining wall, and then that drops off today off the backside. We're going to be creating this platform here. It's precast concrete panels up on top that'll be supported by poured-in-place walls on top of helical piles down below. And then the ramping system would take off like this, and the stair system goes down, and that makes the ultimate connection to the path down in Barry Field. This here is 12 feet wide. You can see it's, we have the composite yellow detectable warning panel there within that 2-foot strip. This helps us make up a little bit of a difference between the existing road gutter here and the precast panel that's going to sit back here that has to sit level back there. All meets ADA requirements for that little ramp system there. We're not doing any work per se in the roadway in this area. We're not touching the road grade. We're not touching any of the drainage. We're going to maintain the existing gutter that has water flowage along the curb line here, and that's going to continue to go to existing drainage systems as it does today. And this is just a different view from the backside. You can see we're relocating one of the signal poles here. That'll be deck mounted to replace the one that goes down to the ground today. And then these here are vehicle barriers in lieu of bollards. They needed to be designed into the deck to withstand impact loading from vehicles that may enter through here and protect them from going over and down the stairs. So I think that gives you a good idea of what the system is supposed to look like when it's done. And now I'm going to go through some of the engineering plans, and then we'll get to the PIC plans themselves. So this is a signal plan. We've had a lot of communication with BTD. We're into our third round of edits through them, going through 75 to 100% plans. So this has been through them on as far as signal modifications. Since we're adding this crossing on this leg here on Chelsea Street, there is not one there today. There's minor modifications that have to be made to the signal system to add pedestrian posts and push buttons to actually make that all work together. There's an existing signal post on this corner here. We're adding a push button to it to make those modifications as appropriate for this crossing here. And then there'll be an additional traffic post that's going to be put in the ground here off the back of the sidewalk. Actually, I think there was a comment recently from PIC where we'll be looking to modify that actual location, or from BTD, I take it. And then the traffic signal post is going to be here. We're not touching the existing mast arm that sits right here. That's staying right where it is, not being modified. We're going to retain the existing traffic signal post and all the heads. And again, we're just making modifications to this one here, which is the secondary coming off of 16th Street. One important feature to note is the location of the Tobin. So I want to point that out. Oh, wrong tool. What you'll see here is the piers to the Tobin right here. But more importantly is the foundation, the footing is here. And so in coordination with Mass DOT, we spent quite a bit of time looking at what offsets were going to be required from this, because they have some modifications that they're going to be making, improvements that they're going to be making, rehabilitation to the bridge piers out there. And they actually wanted to make sure that we had clear distance between the piers, the footing, and this new structure that we're putting in here for perpetual maintenance, perpetual access. And so there was a lot of coordination with Mass DOT early on to determine where we could place this thing. Because if you remember, the original concept actually had more a crossing like this coming across the street. And what we wanted to do was push this as far north as possible so that we could make that crossing more of a 90 and reduce that pedestrian length that would have to walk. And then the result is that we ended up with this kind of odd shaped thing here so that we could push this as far north as possible while still maintaining the clear distance from the footing here. And so that kind of restricts us in being able to move this whole system any further north and kind of dictates the ultimate location of this opening right here. We also took a look at the existing curbing on this corner here. This constitutes about a 45-foot radius. And currently, we're not planning on doing any work on this side of the road here or on this side of the road here on these corners. These are, they're compliant ramps. They were recently built. They both have detectable warning panels. We can take a look at that in street view after we're done here. And so this is the current proposal, is to come across here with this 90 and make those modifications to the signal systems. The other thing that you will see from, this is the striping plan in the set. We're looking at striping this 5-foot shoulders. Right now, there's nothing out there, and the intent here is to provide a formal shoulder and do a better job of actually pushing traffic further towards the center line and providing a little bit of buffer between the edge line where pedestrians will be coming out onto this platform here on both sides of the road. If I could, a little bit of detail about what this opening looks like right here. So this detail here will look like this. So this is the new concrete end post. The guardrail is going to continue this way and this way, the existing aluminum bridge rail. This is the existing gutter line here, so drainage is going to continue to flow this way. This will be rebuilt here. There'll be this new detectable warning panel here, which is 2 feet wide, meets grade requirements. And then this whole panel back here is going to be, that will be a precast panel that's going to be set to make up the top part of that entire deck up on top. One more. To get into a little bit more detail, this gives you an overview of the site. So what we've talked about, there'll be the need to remove the existing rail here, the existing granite curbing, a portion of, build the concrete end posts, break the rail, and then build this whole precast concrete deck and sit it on top of poured walls and helical piles. That will come down and match to an HVP level landing area here that's 30 feet wide, and then ultimately truncates down to an 8-foot wide path to make the connection to the existing path here. We're not intending to go into the path, so we're meeting the grade at this location here. And so if you look at this in an exaggerated profile, and I want to make that point, it's not a natural profile, it's an exaggerated profile, so it looks a little wonky. Coming down from the deck above on Chelsea Street, either stairs or ramp, we meet down here. This is a level landing here, 1.6%, and then we come down at 3.53 to meet the existing road grade here. So I will take that to the PIC plans that we submitted. And you're seeing the same detail here that we provided in the design plans. This vehicle barrier was set 5 feet behind the detectable warning panel and also provides the minimum of 3 feet plus, between those. And that was designed to allow for that clearance there. 12 feet wide between the crosswalk. And this is a profile view of that same thing. So if you're looking due west from the street, standing on the street looking due west out into the field, this is what you're going to see. So you see the concrete end post here. This is the road grade here. These are the elevations that result. And that's what that will look like. Grading on the panel. This was designed, it's a 20-foot wide deck, and it will be 1% from front to back. Along the back side, this will all be level. Todd, one thing I will point out is that this elevation right here is incorrect. This should be 2676, so we will get that updated on the revised plan when that comes in. But the intent is that this is all 1% to the top of the stairs and the top of the ramp here. It's level across the back. And then the front half of this follows the road grade and a 12-foot wide opening. Stairs and ramp system. Go to street view for a second. Are you all seeing street view now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so this is the intersection in question. This radius here is the 45-foot radius. You can see the ramps, they're relatively new. The condition of the detectable warning panels is good. This street's been recently resurfaced. These are compliant. We're going to be adding a little bit of equipment to this post over here. We're going to be adding in a push button head button over here. We're not touching anything on this corner. You can see here, this is a lighting control cabinet that's in the sidewalk here. You have street lighting, and the bridge limits are right here for the Mass DOT bridge. So, for the city's bridge, rather. We don't want to get into the joint or down in that area at all. This is a signal control cabinet right here. So again, we're not touching the existing signals. Those remain in place. This is the one that's going to be relocated. This sits down below, 6.5 feet down below on a small foundation. So this is going to be removed and salvaged and mounted up above on the deck. This mast arm will stay where it is. And then the guardrail in this area and this curbing, you can see that curbing and guardrail is going to be removed. And the ramp will take off right at the gutter line. So it'll be at that elevation. It will go up at a modest, it ranges anywhere from 0 to a maximum, I think, of 1 on 12 for the ramp, that 2-foot ramp. Oop, one more thing. There's also, sorry, don't mean to give you a vertigo. Come on. All right, it's not working, but there is a street light. There's a street light right in here that is going to be impacted because it conflicts with the new concrete ramp and stair system. That is actually going to be relocated up above on the stair system, so you're not losing any lighting in the intersection. The lighting that's there today will be maintained tomorrow. And all right, Amy, did I forget anything?
No, I think you covered everything pretty accurately. You probably want the PIC drawings up for comments and questions.
Amy, if I may, sorry.
Go ahead.
Amy, if I can ask Raj to put that street view at the intersection itself, because it will help me to articulate some of the tiny comments which I had. So when you zoom into the actual street view before this, when you were showing the guardrails and all of that good stuff.
All right, I'm gonna have to reload it, Para. It's not.
Okay, Raj, sorry, just go back. Don't get, it's 12:51 and I'm so nervous about the fact that we are keeping one of the longest. So here's the punchline. First of all of you folks, thank you so much for bringing this project to this point. Absolutely exciting, but devil in the details. So HDR team, to whom does the bridge belong? To the bridge that has the railing?
The bridge belongs to the City of Boston.
Awesome. Okay, so have you had any conversations with them to figure out, because you are going to sort of ditch the railings, and I saw in your presentation, you were having some conversations with Mass DOT. Have those conversations come to fruition, or is it still engaged in terms of the waiver requirements for opening up that railing?
That's a good question. Mass DOT does have jurisdiction over the rail because we're modifying an existing aluminum rail system, which currently doesn't meet crash criteria. And so through Federal Highway, Mass DOT has jurisdiction over any modifications that are being made to the rail system. So we have been engaged with Mass DOT on a waiver request. That has been submitted. And Amy, do you want to give an update on the status of that?
Sure. We submitted it once in, I think it was mid-March, and then Mr. Bardot came back with comments, which resulted in the vertical concrete endpoints for the openings that HDR has shown you since. We sent them back to Mr. Bardot of MassDOT, and through many attempts to getting a response to him from him, we have not been issued any formal response, but given the nature of this project and the request to move quickly, we have let him know that that we're doing our best and we need to move forward with the design, and I will continue to pursue a formal response from him.
So Amy, tiny bit of awkwardness because that railing belongs to, I don't want to sound pompous by saying me, okay? But I do know what my left hand and the right hands are doing. So the bridge belongs to the city of Boston and you can't be opening that thing. Slow down. Please don't misunderstand my comments. You are 99% there. You're on that 1 yard line, okay? So, but this stuff is important because of a variety of reasons. So before we schedule you for the public hearing, you need to get something. Alex is extremely busy with all the stimulus funds that are coming down the turnpike from Washington, D.C. I think he has a few things on his, it is possible that Mr. Bardot has a few things on his mind, and this may not be at the top of his list. Okay? Trying to get all our Commonwealth's biggest prepared. But that waiver is needed before PIC can take action.
So one clarification, we did meet with your staff previously, and I believe they were on board with submitting. Amy, didn't they co-sign the letter that went to Alex?
I will have to double check the paperwork. I know that it was.
Whether my left hand and my right hand signed the letter, but we need concurrence from Mass DOT. It doesn't matter with my full sign. Okay, just trying to
understand.
Just trying to get things to do. Second thing, so we are going to introduce a pedestrian path of travel, and I'm sure this is Ms. Cording can add or subtract. The street lighting or the amount of lighting in this area is going to be hypercritical because you do know the most vulnerable element, which is our pedestrians, are going to be in conflict with those vehicle transporting the trucks that are coming out. And very recently, we had a very awkward interaction with one of those transport vehicles and a Charlestown resident. I don't want to elaborate that because that person is no longer with us. And it was a horrific accident. So here you are trying to introduce a pedestrian path of travel over a bridge where the trucks are used to going sort of fast, okay? So please don't minimize the new intrusion of parents with little kids popping out over here wants to cross. Okay, so lighting has to be absolutely paramount, moving a light over there. So Raj, your team has to do a thorough analysis of the adequacy of street lighting in that area, because the shadows that are cast by the turban tends to be a little bit weird over there, okay? I'm not trying to blow this thing, for the sake of polluting the airways with what I'm saying, but you folks really need to understand the conflicts that are there with the heavy vehicle transport trucks. And when those trucks leave the auto port, they have only one thing in mind: get off Chelsea Street onto I-93. Okay, it's like, damn it, I'm gone, and they are not looking for little kiddies crossing over here. So I cannot overemphasize or underemphasize, whichever the proper emphasis, as to the safety requirements. Okay, and including the red clearance intervals. When those kids hit the pet button, there has to be an adequate all-red pedestrian not a pedestrian, a clearance interval so that the truck has had enough time to jam the brakes, stop before the kids step out into the crosswalk. So Raj, I'm sure, I'm 100% certain you guys are top notch on this stuff. Please come through for me. Okay, so that's what I have. Not sure whether I asked fellow commission members to give any thoughts. If not, I'll open it up again.
Thank you. The same, along the same lines of pedestrian safety in an area where we're introducing a new crossing. I think we would encourage the team to look into splitting that ramp on the northeast side, just because now it may be a compliant condition. However, if you add another crosswalk, you're changing the function of that ramp, and it will no longer be compliant because it's functioning as an apex ramp. So we encourage the team to continue to look for solutions to better that crossing, because I think this project will be extremely beneficial to the community in creating connections to both the Harbor Walk in the Charlestown community. Additionally, I did want to clarify the condition of the ramp on the Berryfield side. We just want to ensure that there will be a 5-foot level landing on that ramp outside of the bollards, as well as if it's feasible for those the openings of the bollards to widen up to 5 foot clear, just to align with our city standards, and to ensure that accessibility through those bollards isn't impeded.
Okay, Sarah, if I may.
BTD Active Transportation made the same comment about the ramps that Sarah did, so I just want to say that we agree.
Okay. We can certainly look at widening out the spacing here of these. This is certainly a 5-foot. This was set to be 5 foot here, and this is about 15 back here. So there's certainly plenty of distance behind that. And as far as relocating this, I think we talked a little bit about, the condition here that we're working with and the difficulties in moving that crossing any further north, and really trying to take advantage of. We've moved it as far north as we think we can. We'll continue to take a look at it, but that certainly we weren't. We were looking to try to minimize the travel path and not ending up with an angled crossing.
And we certainly understand that maybe if there's an adjustment to the crosswalk at 6th Street, that can be adjusted to ensure that there's a dedicated ramp for each crossing. We certainly encourage the team to take a look into that. And I just want to clarify that the 5 foot from the ramp to the bollards is level as well.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Amy, are you all okay?
I am okay. No, I'm thinking about everything that's been said. I recognize the public safety aspect of this is very important to Massport as well, prior to handing this over to the BPDA. I think that we do have a meeting at 1:30 with Ashley Biggins, who is now the project manager for the other side of the table for us to discuss this, and I've pointed out to her that street lighting needs to be part of that conversation, so that we can make sure that this is safe as possible. And looking at, we're definitely going to look at the idea of potentially splitting the pedestrian ramps on the northeast side of 16th Street. We just need to be cognizant of the amount of city utilities that are on that corner alone. And we just want to make sure that we can make this be a successful project. We don't want to adversely affect the feasibility. So we'll also have to look into potential for additional funding sources. That's all. I'm not sure what else to say. We'll look at it. We'll definitely, give it a good look.
Awesome. Ms. Cording, Sorry. Any further comments from the city side? Mr. Lining, any comments from PIC staff and or?
Patricia Mendez, Disabilities Commission.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patricia Mendez from the Disabilities Commission. This project is awesome. I just want to say that first. I do have one thought for the team for safety consideration. I see that the stair is aligned with the pedestrian crossing, and I think that the project can be safer if you aligned the ramp with the pedestrian crossing. And the safety issue that I'm thinking in my head is maybe like a runaway stroller or a runaway wheelchair. So I understand that this is very complicated, so I'm just putting that for consideration.
No, I appreciate the comment. One of the reasons that we switched the location from ramp to stairs from the original concept was to actually move it further north and take away that angled crossing that had been originally designed, so we could shorten up the pedestrian crossing of Chelsea Street, but certainly understand your position.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. So the project applicants, do you think with the 2 weeks is enough for you to sort things out? Because I think one of the key issues is the waiver from Mass Bridge section. And I'm okay signing this thing up for 2 weeks, but I will be very uncomfortable voting on this without getting that waiver approved from DOT. So, so I'm just trying to figure out is 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whenever, or like what's that time frame, keeping in mind that we are all excited to see this thing happen. So
yes. Yeah, no, our goal is to have everything for the 2 weeks. We're preparing for actually, provided everything goes well, to advertise this mid to late May.
Excellent. So it's all rowing the same direction. If we do let us, if there's anything, because anything which we can do, but this waiver decision is definitely Mass DOT's, because it's a huge public safety issue with the trucks coming off that bridge. Okay, and I am a little bit anxious, not nervous, anxious, creating this weird, awkward point where if a truck tries to jam the brakes and suddenly you have an opening. Okay, so those railings were there for a good reason. So please expend all your energies to get that waiver signed off, brace signed, sealed. Then the street lighting aspect, then the traffic signal control part to make sure there's enough clearances between when the trucks stop and when a pedestrian starts crossing. And I'm sure Ms. Cording from the city's transportation department will give you more guidance than I can even fathom right now. Okay, so we'll mark you up for 2 weeks, if that is okay with all parties. Thank you so much. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Last item on today's agenda, number 6, 780 William T. Morrissey Boulevard, Freeport Street, Dorchester, pedestrian easement specific repairs on a set of petitions by Dorchester Michaels LLC.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Appreciate you hearing us today. I know it's been a long morning and already getting into a long afternoon. So I'll introduce myself and the team. Steve Materano with Bowler. I'm joined today by Jay Russo and Jeff Lewis from Dorchester Michaels LLC, the owners and applicants for the project. We also have transportation consultant Bernie Gwynn from Vaness and Associates, Matt Lawler from Robinson and Cole Project Legal Counsel, as well as my colleague Emily Anderson from Bowler as well. So I put together a very lengthy presentation. I hope you're very excited for that, but I'll try to get through it quickly. I have just a couple slides to explain the project. That was a bad joke, sorry about that. But we're here to discuss two items. It's specific repairs on Freeport Street and an associated pedestrian easement. So I'll share my screen and we can walk through the project, get you acquainted with it a little bit. So when that pops up, it'll show you where the site is. I assume you're seeing that now?
Yes.
Okay, great. You have I-93 here, so the bottom lanes are going northbound into the city, southbound, and we're on the southbound side. Currently, there's a restaurant that's been vacant for quite a while, or a couple years now. The Phillips House. You've got the Ramada Inn. Herb Chambers, I believe, has been in front of this commission pretty recently for some repairs associated with their project, also along Freeport Street. So hopefully the area is familiar. Whoops, why is it not going to my next slide? Apologize, last thing we need is technical delays. There we go, okay. Images of Freeport Street, again, images or property is in red here. Freeport Street is city jurisdiction. You can see there's no sidewalks today. So there are some sidewalks being put in right now by Mass DOT just around the corner, and then this is our project here, and we'll get into the frontage. And obviously, the bottom image just shows what's on site today and what's happening in front, which is a lot of pavement, not a lot of direction, and not a very friendly pedestrian zone. So we're hoping to change that. Jeez, where am I? Click to the next slide. Okay, there we go. So this is an image of the proposed development. Just high level, it's 219 unit residential rental building. There's 136 parking spaces, mostly in a podium underneath the building, a couple of surface and visitor spaces outside. There's 219, sorry, not 129, 219 bicycle parking spaces, so one per unit. And then we have a new, just down in this corner, there's a new 19 station Blue Bike docking system that is proposed as part of the project as well. Probably one of the more unique things that we need to deal with on this property is there's a lot of entities that own the abutting roadways. So I-93 obviously is a Mass DOT, and they own right up to the back of our property line here. So all of this green space, and then I-93 itself. In the green space, there's a joint DOT DCR proposed bikeway. Based on everything we're being told, that this bikeway should be coming online about the same time as our project, hopefully a little bit ahead is the schedule. And our best information is that is going to happen. The DCR owns Morrissey Boulevard, which is really everything outside of this orange line, and this way is part of Morrissey Boulevard. So this is all under DCR control. And then Freeport Street, and staff may have some input here as well, but I'm going to give you my understanding of Freeport Street is it's a city-owned roadway that is currently under the custody of Mass DOT for maintenance, and they're basically the custodians of Freeport Street currently, which is part of the central artery improvements, and that is actively in process to be turned back over to the city. So and Todd, if I've glossed over that too much, I'm trying to just give folks the understanding of who has what ownership around the property. So.
Yeah, that's generally accurate. The city and MassDOT are under talks to turn Freeport Street over to the city. That has not happened yet, but that's the reason that this project is before PIC.
Great, thank you. And just one other piece, there is a pathway we're proposing as part of this project, just going from the DCR sidewalk, and we're widening that to about 10 feet with this project. We're proposing a bike path to connect to this. Obviously, that's DOT, that's in coordination with DOT and DCR, and we're continuing to work with those folks, but both parties think that's a good connection, really want it to happen, and we're committed to making that happen. So clicking through to more technical drawings. So I'm going to focus on Freeport. If folks have questions on the other parts of the project, happy to talk through, but obviously Freeport is the city roadway. So what we're proposing to do for improvements is really introduce a sidewalk, I think is probably the biggest, most important piece we're doing. But we're also doing some street tree modifications, bringing in some, again, some decorative lighting here and here within the city right away. We do have 2 street trees that are being proposed for removal here and one here. Those would be right in the middle, especially this one is right in the middle of the proposed sidewalk. So what we're proposing in these areas to get the full width sidewalk is to put some trees on the private property. So sort of a hybrid approach of putting some trees on the back of the sidewalk where the room is more limited, and then as we get to a wider, section here, we go back to a more traditional street tree approach. This one would be in the city right away. There's the survey line is right here, so we do have more street trees, but these 3 are technically in the DCR roadway. But trying to marry City of Boston standards with DCR, which aren't always the exact same goals, but we have talked to them about carrying Freeport Street to be more a City of Boston streetscape. And then as we get around the corner here to DCR, they want a 10-foot wide clear concrete sidewalk. So a little bit different approach as we get around the other portion. And we've, again, moved street trees to the back of sidewalk there. Other things we're considering, and I'll get back to the details of Freeport Street, is Morrissey Boulevards. I'm sure folks have heard there's a major project coming with Morrissey Boulevard. There's some potentially some elevation change, as well as trying to get it back to a more parkway-like feel. So we've been working closely with DCR to make sure what they're planning to do is not in conflict with what we're doing. It's part of the reason the building's set back a little further, why we're not putting hardscape elements right up on at least the Morrissey Boulevard property line. So we are factoring in their future project, even though they don't know exactly what that project entails. So we're trying to leave some wiggle room in what's going on, especially on Morrissey Boulevard and with our building along Morrissey to accommodate whatever Morrissey Boulevard becomes, which they anticipate is all going to be within the current right-of-way. So they did not have takings anticipated for this part of Morrissey. So just more for context there. The only other element really we're introducing here, this is a bus stop. So we're pulling the curb line out a little bit, not for the bus stop, but more to get Freeport to it's effectively a 27-foot width in this stretch, and it does widen out as you match what's happening at the end of our property line is closer to 32-foot width. We heard a lot of feedback of folks, a lot of confusion, like I said, around this corner. Most of that is what we're working with DCR on. And they were supportive of pulling this curb line out, mostly so we could get a 10-foot sidewalk here, but that does play into how we tie back into Freeport. So when we pull this curb line out, it does create the opportunity for wider sidewalks. It also creates the opportunity for this shuttle. It's really a shuttle system that is currently serving the Ramada Hotel. We're effectively adding a stop on for this project and for these residents. And the shuttle really goes to the Red Line, probably most importantly for a residential project, goes to the Red Line, also goes to Logan Airport, and there will be stops added for some local amenities such as a grocery store and things of that nature. So we think that's a real benefit to the area to, again, minimizing the traffic and single occupancy trips coming in and out of this project. And with that, and then our curb location is really, this is a new curb cut we're proposing. It's a 20-foot width curb cut. Currently, the curb cut is here at the intersection, and there's already, Morrissey Boulevard can come on, Freeport has through abilities. This lane goes through this way on this access road, and then Morrissey's a one-way going this way. So there's a ton going on. This is, from day one, we were told we need to, if we do anything positive with this project, it's getting that access point as far away from this confusion area as we can. So this is where everybody agreed is the best access point for the project. So we do move that down quite a bit from where it is today. Hopefully from a roadway and traffic standpoint, that's a real positive. And with that, we have the other utility improvements, shadow fiber conduits following the lighting. We have upgrades to the stormwater system at the 1.25 inch infiltration system. We have full curb to curb mill and overlay in Freeport Street. We have the 2 new city lights, and we're likely, based on comments we received today, likely adding a control box for Boston Lighting. Again, there's not a lot of decorative lighting down here. This does give them the ability where they're starting and the catalyst for that to happen down here, and that control box will give them the ability to continue expanding that as the opportunity presents for the city or other developments. And then the shuttle program, again, we think is a great benefit. So with that, I probably went longer than I implied I was going to. I will turn that back over to the commission for any questions, and we'll end with the, this just shows where the easement's going. Just so you can see, there's 412 square feet along Freeport that's being proposed as an easement. And the pretty picture, so everybody can end their day feeling good here.
Thank you, Steve. At this point, I'll open up for questions by commission members. Hearing none, quick point, Steve, just take this to whatever, this wonderful photo, this isometric, this rendering which you are showing here does not have those god-awful utility poles right in front of, right? Okay, you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so whatever the conversations you can have with them to motivate them to underground that stuff, because it's going to clash like heck with your image. That's one. The 2 trees which you are removing, I'm going to assume that do they warrant a pre-hearing? Are they okay? So get all the pre-hearings all done before you come to the public hearing. So that's all I have. One more chance for fellow commission members, recognizing it's late in the afternoon. Hearing none, Mr. Liming, are there any comments by you, your team, or members of the audience?
No, all set.
Awesome, thank you. So we will mark you up stay for 2 weeks from today?
Yes, that'd be great.
Awesome, we will see you in 2 weeks. That brings to conclusion today's agenda. I have an administrative point which I would like to bring to the attention of fellow commission members. It is a change in staff within the PIC. One of our most beloved staff members, Mr. Abatena Alamu, is leaving the city to join the MBTA. He has been a steadfast member of the Public Improvement Commission staff. So I want to publicly acknowledge you, Abatena, for all the dedicated work which you have given the PIC staff and to the PIC Commission and to Public Works and to the Engineering Division and most of all to the City of Boston. So we wish you, we all wish you the absolute best with your forward journey with the MBTA.
Yeah, I would like to say thank you everyone, through this process. I'm really grateful with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Abatena. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry for the long session.